All right, we are back with another Green Tree specific podcast episode. A few weeks ago, we did a live show and we discussed a lot more about breeding and pedigrees, which we definitely get into today as well. But in the live episode, if you were there, our main presenter, Rain, we were meant to present a large presentation that he put together, and we ended up getting derailed. He lost his Wi-Fi connection, so it ended up just pivoting in a totally different direction. It's a fantastic episode, so I recommend going back to listen to that one as well if you like. The fallout or the aftermath of that episode was really interesting. We got everything from a ton of really positive feedback to people just being completely upset with the episode, and really everything in between, even, some strange rabbit holes with some legal things I don't think I can even talk about yet. And like I said, it was kind of a strange, probably one of the strangest reactions to any episode that I've done, and we really wanted to come back and allow Rain to finish his presentation, which is what this episode is. And thank God we didn't even try to get through his presentation in the last episode, because I think that episode would have been 9 hours long. So that is what this episode is. It's very long and comprehensive. We go everything from discuss everything from the natural history of the animal, where they're located or where they're naturally found, where the localities are in relation to each other. What are the localities? Is pure locality even a thing? We discussed the subspecies that they are now, and of course the green tree python community as well. Basically the breeding that's going on right now, the sales that are going on. We go into a lot of different pedigrees. We look at morph market, what's on sale right now, how the expense of these animals, the difference between yellow and red babies as far as the price points go. Designer animal, what does it mean to be a designer green tree python, which is mostly what you see for sale now? What does that actually mean? Does that mean, I'm not even gonna go into it right now because we spent 3 hours talking about it. So there's a lot more than that as well. Again, I'm sure this episode is gonna ruffle some feathers and also make people happy, because there's some of their questions about this specific species will be answered. So I think there's probably going to be a part 3 at some point down the road as well. So if you enjoyed the episode, let us know. If you didn't enjoy the episode, let us know. If you don't enjoy the episode, I would really appreciate if you could list out some of the things that you would like us to talk about or like me to address at some point. We got lots of people last time saying this was a lot of misinformation, but when I asked them to be specific, there wasn't a lot of details, or most of the time I did not receive any responses, which is fine. It doesn't mean there wasn't anything to add to it. They just maybe didn't want to correspond with me. But if you do have things to add to it, it would be greatly appreciated. If you think there's misinformation, please outline what you think is misinformed or what specifically is the misinformation. Anyway, let's jump into this episode, and I will catch you afterwards. If you are running bioactive setups, then you know your cleanup crew is not optional. It is absolutely essential. Isopods and springtails break down waste, recycle nutrients, and keep your system from crashing. Later on in this episode, I'm going to tell you all about the cleanup crew kits from the BioDude. These kits allow you to culture your own isopods and springtails at home, or you can buy a species-specific kit that is already catered to the specific reptile or amphibian that you're keeping at home. Or if you're somebody who actually loves the look of an isopod, you can buy their premium display kit and display your isopods for everybody to see in your reptile room. Stick around for later on in the episode to learn more about the cleanup crew kits from the BioDude. This episode is sponsored by ZooMed and their Repti Habitat Pro 120, which is a 2x2 by 4 foot PVC enclosure that comes with locking glass doors and a beautiful metal mesh top, which allows you to have the appropriate lighting for whichever animal you choose to keep in this enclosure. It ships flat packed, which is very efficient cost-wise rather than shipping these large bulky enclosures. And it's really a perfect enclosure for everything from a bearded dragon to a ball python, or maybe you want to keep a group of smaller species in there as well. I will tell you more about this beautiful enclosure by ZooMed later on in this episode. All right. Well, Rain, welcome back to the podcast. It's only been a week or so since we've had you on, so I'm happy to have you back.
Good to be here as always. Part 2
of our Green Tree Python series. I think everybody knows this was coming, whether or not you're happy about it or not. We know part 2 is here. And for those who didn't listen to part 1, we started an episode. Well, we did a great live stream episode a few weeks ago, but it kind of got it got derailed in a good way. We ended up going on down a different tangent, but Rain's Wi-Fi connection was a bit dicey, so we couldn't do as much of the screen sharing and the presentation that he had planned. We just had to pivot into talking about different stuff. The aftermath of that episode was very interesting.
Yeah.
We got a ton of feedback from both people being really mad about it to people who were just praising the episode, and then things even in between, which were more like, I don't even know if we can legally talk about.
Yeah, a lot of unexpected stuff.
Yes, unexpected, strange emails from lots of people that are sort of alluding at whatever. We'll get into that. I know
Right.
that's a very ambiguous way to start the episode. But what we really wanted to do, for sure, is nail down this species, give a better history that we weren't able to do last time, and then we'll get into some more of the other stuff. And I know that there's people that are already upset about this happening, but I think the information that we're giving is not really out there yet. And if you do have an issue with the information being provided, it would be very helpful if you could identify some of the things that you feel that are incorrect, because that was
constructive criticism. Like, we're fine with that, but you can't just say like, oh, that's not right, or oh, like we know that you may not like us, and that's fine. Like, that's not a big deal. That's neither here nor there, because that doesn't really equate to how you care for your animals. Like, that's supposed to be like the mesh, you know what I mean? But if I do say something, and I'm pretty factual, and I know Dillon is as well too, just tell me and show me, and then I will go back and look and see. Like, if you're right, then I'll be like, I've done it many times. Like, okay, so and so was right, but if you're wrong, man.
So that's the plan today. Is we're going to try to get through as much information as we can, and I think kind of similar to where we started with part one is obviously the green tree python holds a special place in the reptile world, in the community, in herpetoculture. It's almost an icon of it. In some ways, the mascot is the wrong word, but it's like a flagship species almost, right? Because it has an allure to it. It's a beautiful species, both as a baby and as an adult, but also there's just, I don't know what it is. There's some gravitational pull to that species that just seems to permeate everything, I think.
Right. I think a lot of that also came from, like, when I first got introduced to, like, really got introduced, because I said I bought an animal very early on, a green tree python very early on, and I was in a pet store, as I was saying before, looking for something else, and I didn't even know that this snake was there. And I got one very early on, and my experience didn't go for very long because there was a lack of information. There was information, like Reptile and Amphibian magazine had done a little bit. Vivarium had done some stuff. And like I said, this is pre-Reptile magazine. So I didn't really get into the green tree python until, like, physically a little later on, like years later. Like, I did a lot of research at that point, and what I was finding is that everyone was just claiming how difficult it was to keep this animal, to breed this animal, to do this and do that, and all these things. Like, everything about it was difficult. Like, nothing was easy. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's a challenge. And so that's why I started ending up, like, I have so many books, like these 3 books here that I have, like all these books, like 1910, 1909, like 1960, and I have even older ones. These are all reptile books. And I've got 2 dozen more downstairs. And so Smithsonian, like we showed, actually, if you want to pull that up, Dillon, in the history, the screenshot, sure. I think it's the first screenshot, 1593 PM. It shows the date and how many times and who bred these animals.
1593.
It should be the first one in history. Yeah, 1593 PM.
I think mine might be labeled slightly different. I'll just pull up. So I'll pull up the file. And so for those listening, we have a lot of files that we want to share. So if you're listening you may want to come back to the video version at some point, either on YouTube or Spotify, so you can see some of this stuff. Is this the file, Rain?
That's fine. That'll work. That's good. So yeah, here, like, you can see Chondropython viridis, and it starts 1944. Now, originally, the first 2 green tree pythons were found in 1866, and then they were given taxonomy in 1872, and then they started getting reclassed like 4 years after that, like periodically. So here, I think it's 22 people that bred between 1944 and 1987 is when they stopped. This is when Smithsonian, I would say, stopped either receiving information from people or they just stopped taking information. However it happened, I'm not, I don't know. I don't write the books. But 2 dozen people in that period of time, it's not a lot, but it's not a little. And compared to some of the other species you see right here as well, like, it's got more or just as even amount as some of the other ones. Yeah. So when I saw something like that, I want to look into it deeper, because I'm like, well, obviously people are doing this. And one thing I know is that when people don't want you to do things, or they want to try to keep things exclusive, then they're going to make it difficult. And a lot of this stuff is also mental. I think me and you have talked about that many times, and I've talked about that with other people. You know, like you are what you keep, like they say, you are what you eat. So if you believe that it's going to be hard for you to breed green tree pythons or whatever, then yeah, it probably is going to be hard for you to. But it can't be that hard because I have a friend who's only been keeping green tree pythons for like 2 or 3 years, and he's already had 5 clutches, and he's never bred snakes prior to this. So, I don't really, I don't know. It was never hard for me. The most difficult thing that I had was in the beginning was getting them feeding, but I was listening to the wrong information. And once I switched up, things were a lot easier for me. So what else do we got in that history file?
So let's toggle through here. So we have, I think maybe, do you want to look at
here? Let's go back. Yeah, here. Go. We'll keep that. Let's go back right here. So
the map. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go to. So this is the distribution map, and it's everywhere for the green tree python, and you can see the range down there in Iron Range, Cape York, in Australia. But yeah, it's that whole island basically for the green tree and the scrub python as well. The scrub python is even found in even more places so far compared to the green tree python. Mm-hmm. So it's a widely available animal, obviously. Now go back to the slide before that. Let me see if I can. So this is basically detailing the use in the trade, right? And that's what it says. And we did this, like I said, we did this for a reason. Like I only wanted to take particular information. That way people couldn't say that I was making stuff up or doing this or doing that. But it's this whole article, this is from CITES actually. It's talking about, the effects of obviously harvesting this animal. And it even gives the numbers. If you go down, I don't know how well they can see it, but under the first paragraph where it says use and trade, and then if you go down under the first paragraph, there we go. And so Nauschitz, I'm not sure if that's the name or like, and Lyon's 2012 reported numbers individual found, Aru, 123 individuals, Biak, almost 1,100, 70 from Jayapura, 29 from Moroke, Velga Klopp, I can never say that right, 176 individuals between 2010 and 2011 that they know of. From Biak alone, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised the numbers of Aru aren't a little bit higher. It could be a reason for that. Sometimes permits are different. Different people have different permits to be in different places. So that could be a reason for that. And then again, this is 2010 on up for this. So, I can't remember exactly what was going on over there. I was there in 2012, and we'll talk about that because that was my last trip, and it was like haywire over there. So you really couldn't even do anything. But yeah, 1,000 animals from one island, bro. That's crazy. Like that's a lot. Like,
now, are these all these localities? Are these all little islands in Indonesia, or are some of these on the mainland islands?
Some of them, they're both. Yeah,
okay.
Jayapura, Moroke, the one with the V that I can never. Those are all island. I mean, sorry, those are all mainland, and then Aru and Biak are 2 of the islands.
Sure.
So. Okay. Biak in the north, closer to Jayapura, and then Aru is in the south, would be closer to Moroke, but on the other side. So, but yeah, and this is just some of the localities in the island. There's many more that, but like I said, this is just what's documented. And so let's see, there's one more slide for this one. And from a breeding standpoint, like that's kind of crazy. Oh, this one right here. So let's see. Well, this is all the taxonomic notes basically. So 1872 is showing you when this particular person, Seljul, I could care less about the names. I know some guys that, they're really hung up on that. But 1872 was when he first described them. But again, they were found in 1866, and then they were taken, I believe, to a zoo in Germany. It could have been the Netherlands. I can't remember which one, but they ended up somewhere in Europe, basically. And so here is just describing what happened. It talks a little bit about Mark O'Shea, Dave and Tracy Barker again in 2015. And this is all taxonomy. So even here, they're talking about possibly different species. It hadn't happened yet, that separation, but people were talking about it. And so obviously later on, if it was 2014 or 2017 is when they actually separate them. I can't remember. It was 14 or 17. It was one
Like
of the
when the localities basically separated into
well, the
subspecies.
species, yeah, right. And so a couple of those, and we'll show that on the map, share the same territory. So that means like basically the whole time, like through the whole history, breeding history of this animal, is that not only were you crossing locality, that you were also sometimes crossing species according to the current information now. Now I know, and you know, we've talked about this before, that some people don't care about the science unless they need it to kind of like disprove someone else or make someone else look bad. And then they want to talk about, oh, what's scientific this or what's scientific that. But then when it comes to specific names, oh, I don't like that, or I'm not saying that. It's always going to be this to me, and da 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 da. So it's like, is there really a respect for science and taxonomy and all that stuff? Like, does it matter? Does it not? At this point, who can say?
Right.
So
now, I have a kind of a random question that I don't know if you have an answer to, but like the locals who live in Indonesia, what's their relationship with this animal? Like, do they? I mean, obviously, this is not a species that you see on an everyday occurrence inside a city, but are they? Do they revere this animal? Do they have a respect for it? I know at one point it said they even some of the tribe cultures will eat them or hunt them for food. I don't know if you know the answer to that, but I'm just curious.
I haven't heard anything like about that relating to the green tree python. Now the Bolian's python, for sure, there is some lore behind it. I do know they call the green tree python the green caterpillar snake, and it's like I've got it. Because ulat and ular is snake and ulat is caterpillar, but when it's used, I don't speak one of the many dialects there, but when they put it up, it's different as far as like how they say. It's kind of like in Portuguese, it's like that too. It's the D is silent when it's with this letter or with this word, but so it's like that. So, but the name that they call it is Ulat Sanka Hijau, which means the green caterpillar snake.
Okay.
But if you see like ular, like if you ever are watching like the Indonesian like reptile videos, and they'll be like ular, that they're saying it's a snake, it'll be like ular retic or something like that. And so that's what they're saying. Gotcha. But I personally haven't been told anything about the green tree python being tied to, and that doesn't mean that it's not, but I haven't heard anything.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Should I toggle through some of these? So this is the map. So maybe I'll zoom in on this just to, now that I can zoom. So we can point out some of these.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about location too. And then we can go into the little presentation that Rico Walder did.
Sure.
So, obviously this is the PNG side is on one side. And then Indonesia and West Papua are on the other side. And then you have the Malukan province, which they're not really showing all of it, but that's okay. We have other maps. But yeah, so you see, as you zoom in, you see the Central Highlands is immediately, is an area that's not colored. But they do find green tree pythons there. And I'm not exact. This map is from 2005 or 6, I believe. So this is an older map. The areas probably have changed depending on if someone is catching them and then actually documenting what is going on. But obviously, Wamena is a highland animal, and that's in the Central Highlands. Not to be confused with Jayapura, because those are 350 miles away. Yeah, Jayapura is way up there, 350 miles north. With the backdrop is the Cyclop Mountain, and then you go 350 miles south to Wamena. Now, I talked a little bit about this. Now, generally, you have to fly into Wamena. I mean, you could walk there. I don't know how long it'd take you if you'd make it. But the Trans-Papuan Highway has been in effect for a while. And I think you might be able to drive there or get pretty close. Don't quote me, but I know it is in construction. And there are definitely roads in Indonesia. It's just, some of them, they're not the most well-traveled roads. Let's just say that. A lot of like even on the PNG side, like it's really undeveloped over there in most places. So you're driving on a lot of undeveloped roadways as well. But so generally, like if you wanted to go to Wamena from Jayapura, or in general, if you want to go to Indonesia, you're going to leave from wherever you are. If you're in the States, like me, I'm going to leave. Let's say I'll leave from I don't know, Dulles, and then I'll go to LAX, and then from LAX you go to HND, and this is the route. HND, that's Japan, and then you go to CGK, that's Jakarta, and then you go to JD. Sorry, I do this every time. It's not JJD, it's DJJ. I don't know why. There's Sentani Airport in Jayapura, and then from there you get connecting flights to, like, there's multiple airlines there. You have like Lion, like Transguardia. There's like a dozen different airlines, and some of them only go to specific places. Like you have one that only goes to like Ascabil and Wamena. And it's like an hour flight from Jayapura to Wamena. And then that's WMX. And then that's, the main, Wamena is the main city or area that is associated in the Baliam Valley. And then in the Baliam Valley, you have the Dani, the Lani, I believe, and the Yani tribes are there. And I'll talk a little bit about them later on, and, some crazy stuff that happened the last time I was out there. But where can we go from here?
So then the other ones that to me stand out are we have
Biak
and Sarong up here.
Right. So obviously we just saw that Biak is a very popular place because it had the most animals being taken from there. And those are also the ones that are the cheapest on the market. And generally what you see in your average collections are Biaks, unless someone just has like, the special thing for Biak animals. But at one point, like way back in the day, they used to, and I'll tell you the reason why so many Biaks were pulled. Now that I had to think about it for a minute, the reason why so many Biaks were pulled, now it came back, and it's one reason. What I said before is probably also a reason as well, but they believe that the Biak is the key to unlocking all the mutations and these weird genetics and phenotypes. So that was why the Biak was harvested in such great numbers in comparison to some of the other ones.
Is there a reason they thought that? Was it more just diversity of appearance as adults? Or?
Yeah, because some of the Biaks, they retain smaller amounts of green versus larger amounts of yellow. They showed what appeared to be melanistic scales, which we're going to talk about may not even be melanistic scales at all. But, no one's ever paneled for this stuff. So it's really just speculation. But they were exhibiting this stuff the most. But not every locality has exhibited that. And again, and if this has happened, then they're keeping it a secret. But we've never pulled an albino, and we've never pulled a melanistic animal out of the wild. Nothing in comparison to what you would see, like the animal, the sickness, or people who are trying to get animals on that same level. That color wise, and we're going to show pictures of that stuff. So if that has happened, they didn't tell anybody, and I don't care about that, because if you're going to keep stuff a secret, you know what I mean, and then try to bring it out and later, then whatever. But like, no one, that's literally gatekeeping. So, but it's never happened, and I wonder why that is. You know what I mean? When you really think about things in nature and how nature works, I think a lot of times it's just like hard for people to understand that you're never going to get on the level of an animal, and they're never going to get on your level. So
now with these localities, can you, like, I'm more used to boas when I'm talking about boa localities, because they're very visually different. And if you're somebody who works with boas, like if you're an expert with boas, you could easily visually identify a locality just by looking at it really quick, because they have such starkly different. Like a Hog Island boa has a very specific look. It's a pale looking animal compared to like a crawl key boa, something like that.
Right.
Now, if you just lined up a bunch of green tree python localities, could somebody pick them out, or is there so much crossover in appearance that it'd be tough to? If you keep bioactive terrariums, then you know that beneath the leaf litter and the substrate and the soil, your cleanup crew is doing the heavy lifting. Springtails and isopods break down uneaten food, they eat sheds, they recycle the nutrients back up into the soil to keep your system from crashing. And the key to success when it comes to having a healthy, strong bioactive system is having a consistent and reliable source of cleanup crew members. And the BioDude gives you 3 excellent options to achieve this. First are their culturing kits, which allow you to grow your own isopod and springtail colonies at home. These are simple, economical kits that come with everything that you need to establish strong colonies in your own home, whether you are restocking current enclosures that are already running, or you're needing to spark and initiate the cleanup crew in a brand new setup. This is a way you can consistently have healthy, strong crew members that are ready to go to work whenever you need them. Second, if you actually enjoy isopods as an animal like many of us do, then you're going to want to check out the BioDudes premium kits. These kits come with a clean, display-ready acrylic enclosure to allow you to display your colonies to anybody that comes into your reptile room. And third, the team over at the BioDude has put together a bunch of species-specific cleanup crew kits. So whether you're getting a bearded dragon, a crested gecko, a hognose snake, a ball python, you can go to their website and pick up a cleanup crew kit that will thrive within the environment of the animal you are keeping. The bottom line is very simple. If you want to have a healthy, strong bioactive system, you need a healthy, strong cleanup crew to help maintain it. For more information on the cleanup crew kits by the BioDude, head to www.thebiodude.com.
If you were to be able to get pure landrace, like every phenotype, or, because obviously the phenotypes are unlimited as far as like patterning and where the blue will be. But what you're asking is, some things are very distinct, like BIAC animals are very distinct. Aru animals were very distinct, but I've seen a change in them over the years, and maybe that's because we pulled so much of that phenotype that it wasn't able to reproduce itself in the wild if it's not there. Mm-hmm. So now the Arus that come over look different than the ones that come over before. But at one point, and I've showed you price lists, they didn't sell these animals by locality. They just were green tree pythons, and they were selling them by the foot.
Right.
And then that was it. But the difference between a cyclops and what someone would call a manikwari or even some jayaporas is if these animals are really what they're supposed to be, some people might even throw a wamina in there as well and say, how can you really tell the difference between these animals? In most cases, you're not going to be able to tell the difference regardless of what they tell you. And one reason is because 95% of the people that keep this animal were not there and have never seen one of these animals in the wild. They have only seen wild animals in their homes. And so things change as well. As things happen in nature, the animals adapt to that as well. It may be a slower process with reptiles than it is with mammals and other animals, but there's still an adaptation that's happening. And so this is why, like, they would get this Maroke animal that would have this white stripe, but then when they would breed it in captivity, they wouldn't get any of that. But not every Maroke animal has exhibited that. But they also, at one point, when they got this albino animal, it came through a Maroke animal. They automatically, in their minds, this is what happens when you don't understand breeding and you don't know what you're doing. They automatically figure that this disorder was in the Maroke locality, not knowing that albinism, one, can be sporadic because they don't understand this, or that it can pop up anywhere, that albinism and copper and melanism are all directly associated together. And we're going to show that, and we're going to prove that. So if someone says they got a fac animal, or if someone says they got a Tamika animal, how do you really know? I've had Tamika animals. People have called me, hey, is this a Tamika? According to what I've seen and the ones I've had, it looks to be that. But that animal could have been from anywhere. Because I think, when living in the States, the attitude over here is we know better than everyone. And then other countries even feed that, because they're always like, well, we're looking for you guys to see what we're doing. I'm like, I don't know why, especially in this part of the trade, the animal trade. I don't know why. Maybe in dogs, but I don't know about reptiles. But that's what they say. So that just further fuels the ego. And so now what happens is they think that these people over there like don't know what's up. I've talked to some of these people like, oh, they don't really know. I'm like, yeah, they do know, bro. So when your trapper or whoever, whatever you want to call them, your poacher, your trapper, or whatever, goes out there and then they tell their people, the person who hires the trapper tells them, hey, I need this, and this. Man, and I'm going to pay you this, and this. They're going to go get those animals by any means necessary.
Yes.
And what I mean when I say that is they're going to tell you
they're coming back with green snakes.
Well,
Yeah.
Murdoch even said it in the paper that we talked about in part one, which really be like a supplement for this, was that when they don't know, they attach the highest or the most popular locality to the animal. And it was back in the 90s when he wrote that, 2001 when he wrote that paper. So that was just 20 something years ago. And he talked about that in here. And he said, I think it might be in the third one, not this one.
Right here.
Yeah, right there. So yeah, he says, yeah, terms such as Aru, Biak, Sarong, Jayapur, Maroke, and Tamika are often used by importers as marketing tools for animals of unknown true origin based on characteristic color. So that actually answers your question. What he just said is these animals can look alike, but there might not necessarily be alike.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no different than like if you've ever really grown cannabis. I know a lot of people claim that they have, and then when you sit down and have a conversation with them, like, dude, you've never done this before. So when
like how it says here, locality-specific traits do exist, and similar phenotypes may still breed true, but there's no 100% guarantee.
Right. And cannabis that's why I said cannabis is the perfect thing for the green tree python, because now, like, and I know a lot of people smoke, and whether you smoke or not, it doesn't really matter. You hear about it. Every day there's 100 new weed strands, and all the landrace strands are getting lost. That's why they have a whole show on YouTube dedicated to guys going out looking for landrace seeds and genetics so that they don't lose how we got here. The green tree python is an exact parallel to what's happening in the cannabis world, because most of the cannabis strands now are garbage. You don't even know what they are anymore. They got stupid names that almost honey bun, pancakes and syrup, and cinnamon roll, and stuff like that. There's no more. People don't know how to grow Hindu Kush anymore. They don't know how to grow Northern Light. Well, I do, but these guys, they don't know how to do this stuff. And so that's the same thing. Is let's say you want to grow cannabis, right? And so for people who can't discern and decipher, because I know we got some of them, we saw them in the comments, just change the words weed to snake. All right, it's simple. So let's say you find a website, right? And you're like, I want to grow this strand. And so you order your seeds, however much they cost. They send you the seeds. Now, under normal circumstances, you get 10 seeds, right? All of those seeds come from the same mother plant. You do not get 10 seeds from 10 different plants or 5 different plants or 3 different. You get them from one plant, right? You plant them all. I just did it. I can tell you exactly what just happened. So I planted 10 seeds, the same strand. Immediately, I saw mutations. So what do? When I see mutations, I start documenting, because now I got to figure out, do I even want to work with this strand? So I let them go. The mutations. See, I could care less about a curly leaf that is going to, that's really going to bring fault to what I'm doing, because I need my leaves to be big and beautiful and vibrant and, soaking up all the light from the air. And when I feed them particular ways with, water feeding and things like that on the leaves, I need them to be able to handle that. So I noticed mutations immediately. So I'm like, I'll give them 2-3 days. So once I see what they are, trashed immediately. They're cold. I'm not using that. So now I got 7 left. 2 days later, I come in, 2 of them, boom, they're gone. So now I'm really questioning the genetics of this strand. Do I want to continue on, or do I just want to trash the whole thing and grab, something else from my catalog and go with something that I know? Because this is something that someone gave me to test out, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But let's say I take these all the way. I get them all the way and I'm ready to flower them. Again, they're all from the same mother. They have the same mother, same father. But each one of these plants is exhibiting a different phenotypical appearance, right? Now, I have to decide which one I want to keep. The one that I keep, that's the one that I clone off of. The ones that I don't keep, I flower them out, smoke them, whatever. So if I'm keeping something and I'm cloning it, then I need to set up a whole nother system for that, right? It's got to be separate. And basically the reason I'm saying this is we talked a little bit about this, and this fits perfectly. You have 4 species now of green tree pythons. You have 3 species of cannabis: sativa, indica, ruderalis. Ruderalis is a species of cannabis that is used to create what is known as an autoflower, because ruderalis genetically, its phenotype, there's one thing about its phenotype that never changes. It doesn't get very big, and you have almost no control over when it flowers. Doesn't matter, right? So when you cross that into hybrid indicas and sativas, or pure hybrids or sativas, you get a plant that exhibits those phenotypes of both. So the plant could ultimately grow larger than the pure version. Now, this is a cross plant. This is not a pure whatever, even though they're going to tell you that it is in so many ways. But when you see autoflower, you know that it's crossed. Just like when you see designer, you know that it's, this is a cross, or it's a mutation. It can only be one of the other. Yeah. Because a hybrid is also a designer, but everybody doesn't really have hybrids. Just because you breed a boa, let's just say for argument's sake, because this is a hybrid, a boa and a python together, that's a hybrid. You have to do that again with 2 other snakes of the same species, and then breed those offspring together in order to get a real hybrid. Until you do that, you don't have a hybrid.
It's not just a one cross. Yeah.
Right. No, it doesn't. But, some people think that it works that way. It doesn't. Now, keeping in with a little bit with the conversation. So obviously I can't clone green tree pythons. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. But so we have to do that. We have to flip the conversation to this point. If I have a phenotype that is worth cloning, this is the point that I'm making. Obviously, I just told you I started with 10. I'm left with 4, and there was only 1 that made the cut. That's for 2 reasons. One, just because you buy something doesn't mean it needs to be bred.
Yes.
That's one thing. Also, when you breed animals, when the wild animals hatch out or they're born, some of those animals are meant to die. They're meant to be food decoys for other animals. Yeah. So ultimately, when you breed animals in captivity, you are still getting that, but you're keeping those genetics alive as well, which is why some people have problems with 3 or 4 babies, and then 5 or 6 are not giving them any issues, because that's how it's supposed to be. And some things you just are never going to get rid of. It's like, come on, bro, how long have we been keeping constrictors in captivity? People feed them frozen, thawed animals, and they still constrict, no matter what. Yes, no matter what, they still constrict. But my cobras are a more intelligent animal, and they know the difference between live and dead prey, because I do both here, majority live. I know people don't like that, but this is what we do over here. And my animals know the difference. Yeah. Like I could never see a python doing, like I've got a video on my page. I set a carton of quail eggs in front of my cobra cage and opened it, and he came out and individually picked the eggs out of the carton and ate them. Wow. Your python could never. Your boa could never. Colubrids, yes. Yeah. But they're on a different level. That's not to say that pythons are dumb, because no dumb animal lasts long. And I know there's some guy that, did a whole, green tree pythons are dumb and shouldn't take advice from people like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just telling you, he just told you right there. He answered your question. And, a little bit more what I said is that this whole locality thing, so what we were saying about how we got there is that if I got an animal from a locality that I like I said, this plant that I wanted to clone, I'm going to breed every female I have to that animal. And obviously I'm going to have the best females. But if it's worth keeping, and this is why when we look at those pedigrees and they're all outcrossed, but then you go to the description on Morph Market and it's like, oh, I got these insane bloodlines. Bro, if it's so insane, stud fees are a real thing in the horse world, the cow world, the pig world, the goat world, the dog world, the rabbit world, because I want that bloodline. How can I buy a semen sample? Can I borrow your dog? Can I bring my horse over to breed with your male? And I'm not saying that we haven't traded reptiles and done breeding. Yeah, of course we've done that. But it's not to that scale, especially if you want to have pedigrees attached to this stuff. Talk about bloodlines that don't exist, and then say $8,000 for an animal. And at the end of the day, like I really have nothing, because I should be able to go to a green tree python breeder who's been doing this 30, 40 years and call this person my breeder. And he's got, I mean, we've imported over 200,000 green tree pythons, right? If you do the numbers, and I think I did do the numbers with you, if all those babies were to be bred and hatched just at an average of 10, that's millions and millions of green tree pythons from then to now.
Yeah.
Where are all those snakes at? But if what's a good way to
I think like what you're saying, like if you had if the lines were solid, you should be able to go to a breeder and pay for an animal that's going to look a specific way and act
every time, right? Every time, every single time. Because, and then not only that, he should recommend me. And that's the point I was getting at, the recommending, like, if you want to continue on, if you like what I'm doing, so and so and so and so are also have animals off of my real lines. And you can see that, and they exhibit the same phenotypical postures, as my animals do. And these would make good additions and complement your animals well that you have. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Because if you go to buy a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, there's particular breeders and there's particular bloodlines and phenotypes, or it doesn't matter what the dog is, right? And so you go and you get this dog. If you got a good breeder, he should be grading these animals for you. And if you are a breeder yourself, you should also be grading these animals as well. I don't care what it is, bro. Like, I think, we don't have to sit up here and say snake for everything. If you don't know what we're talking about, like, the whole purpose is to draw parallels and prove that breeding is breeding. So a good breeder is going to have a whole team of people that are supporting his bloodline. It's a fact. You can look at every bloodline. Like, you have so-and-so, like, this is why, like, Cayenne would have been great for this, because I don't know all the lines because I deal with specific breeds, but some dog breeds have gone further than other ones. So they have a way deeper history. And Cayenne is like, he knows all of that stuff. So he can tell you who Pat Patrick originally got his dogs from. But if you go buy a Pat Patrick dog, all you're going to see on that pedigree, 80% Patrick. And we're going to show a Patrick pedigree. Just Patrick, all the way down. Ain't no mistaking that is a Patrick dog. And it looks like, they'll pull a dog up from 30 years ago and be like, yeah, it looks exactly. Why? Because they've been doing their job the right way. Mm-hmm. They've been accessing all three types of breeding: outcrossing, line breeding, and inbreeding. You can't make a line without using all three of them. It's not possible. We've already proven that on another podcast, but we have to go over it again, just because this animal and some of the carpet pythons, and there's a few other species where people are talking about lines and lines and lines. And like I said, we pull up pedigrees and, it's all just, it's like a outcross family tree.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a good point. We're going to get into the pedigrees deeper soon, but I think that's a good point, is like, there's a difference between a line and a family tree. Like, we all personally have a family tree. You can look at your mom, your dad, your grandpa on both sides, and it continues to go down, but you're not a line-bred human,
and that's the thing. They breed green tree pythons the way humans breed, in modern day society. It's constantly outcross, under normal circumstances, obviously. So that's why, 7 generations, 8 generations down the road, like, you're not really even looking like those people. You don't even have the same last name in most cases, anymore. Unless you were, like I said, unless you're doing some line breeding.
Yeah, like obviously this would not be ethical, but just imagine if somebody line bred humans, like you could make an entire group of like absolute monsters, basically. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you could choose the traits that you want, and again, this is like getting into eugenics. Basically, this I'm not recommending this, but you could. I mean, there's always this joke every time the Olympics games happens, right? Because there's just like the Olympic Village is basically like a sex fest, and people do the calculations. They're like they handed out 1 million condoms, and condoms fail at like a 5% rate. It's like the next generation of people are going to be monsters because you have these like 2 Olympic athletes breeding basically that are going to make a crazy human. So you could do that. Obviously you shouldn't, but that's what you do in the animal world to make sure that the animals are healthy, strong, and have a traits that are continually breed true. And
there's nothing wrong with outcrossing. We said that before.
Yes,
if you want to outcross, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with outcrossing. There's nothing wrong with even documenting it. But a $7,000 outcross unproven animal is crazy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like this animal isn't even proven, and you don't even really know what it's going to do once it does change. And so, like that in itself, see, like good breeders, like they hold back a lot. Like you have a lot of breeders, bro. They'll hold back depending on what animal we're talking about. You may only get 1 or 2 animals. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Horses don't have 10. They don't have 10 babies. It just doesn't have, they have 1. Sometimes you might get lucky and you get twins, but generally they're only having 1. And so that animal is going to be very important to them to the next phase because it's going to basically determine the next move. The other problem is when you breeding is like F1s, and Kyan and Brian both said this is crazy because Kyan and Brian have never met. They never spoke before that day. One's a dog breeder, one breeds chickens and dig lilies, but they had a cohesive conversation, which proves again that breeding is breeding. Mm-hmm. And so when you start really taking this serious and let's say you end up with you get 1 animal, this animal is going to determine a lot. So what you have to do is you got to go back and breed that pair of animals again. Your F1s are ultimately worthless in breeding. I know people may not like the terms that I use, but I've been doing this a long time and it is what it is. You flip the words, to however makes them comfortable for you. But on a breeding scale, those animals don't have very much value to a real breeder who knows what he's doing. Because if I breed the parents again, what if I get something totally different?
Like, what's that story you told me a long time ago was it with the press? Was it that dog Jakar or something?
Oh, yeah, Jakar. Yeah, Jakar. Jakar, perfect example. Jakar was a beautiful phenotype. He represented, like, he fit the Pressa standard perfectly. He was a beautiful dog, black brindle. Thinking about him now, I'm like, man, I'd love to have a dog like Jakar still. He's a beautiful dog, but he came off of an outcross litter. He just happened to be a good pup in the litter, but when they got him over here, they bred the hell out of him and he couldn't reproduce himself. Mm-hmm. On a whole. Like one dog might get the head, this dog might get the body, no matter what they bred him to, like it was just pieces of him. This people over here, man, they act like Jakar, but they sure don't look like him. They look like him, but they sure don't act like him. You know what I mean? And so that's why nobody talks about him. That's why I can't tell you nothing about Jakar right now because Jakar fell off. He never went on to reproduce a bloodline.
His genetics were too scattered.
They were too scattered from the start. He was an outcross animal. And like I said, you can get, and we talked about that in the master reptile breeding class, you can get a great animal from an outcross. But if you think you're going to get that animal again, if you breed it to another unrelated animal, you're not.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not. You're going to get a watered down version of that animal, and he's going to lose a lot. And the more you outcross, the more you lose. Yeah. That's the whole thing. So it would be like thinking that your child is going to be a clone of yourself with the random woman that you've met. Doesn't even matter. Like, bro, you have 2 kids, and that one is going to be taller than the other one.
Yeah,
they might have different eye color, different hair color. One likes peanut butter, one likes chocolate. You know what I mean? Like one has a better relationship with the mom, one has a better relationship with the dad. Like one's a lawyer, one's a architect. Like that's, you know what I mean? And that's why like the Amstaff and the Pit Bull was also a great kind of parallel to bring in the story because you have this dog, this Pit Bull Terrier that gave rise to almost like a subspecies of itself only because AKC wouldn't register the dog because it had pit in the name. But the same dogs that were going into the battles, into the pit, were also within the same litters as the Amstaffs that were going to the show. So it's basically one became a criminal and one became a lawyer. One's a show dog and one was it's a working dog. And so you can see the difference, but those dogs are directly related.
Yes.
There is no separation genetically between those dogs. And there's only so it's like this. Every Amstaff is an American Pit Bull Terrier, but not all Pit Bulls are American Amstaffs.
Right. Yes.
And you can say that with green tree pythons, because you could be like, all designer green tree pythons are green tree pythons, but they're all not true green tree pythons.
Today's episode is sponsored by ZooMed and their Repti Habitat Pro 120, which is a 2x2x4 PVC enclosure that comes with locking glass doors and a metal mesh top. This enclosure is roughly 120 gallons, which really does give you a ton of space to work with, whether you're working with a corn snake, a bearded dragon, a ball python, or I think you could even do a small colony of lizards like long-tailed grass lizards, or even a group of anoles would look amazing in an enclosure like this. 120 gallons gives you a ton of space to build out all the habitat as well as the enrichment needs that your animal absolutely requires to thrive. The Repti Habitat Pro 120 is PVC with lockable side latches on the doors, as well as side vents, which will allow for cross ventilation, which is crucial for allowing for proper airflow. And you also have an adjustable cord port, so you don't have to drill holes into the enclosure for whether you're trying to get a probe in there or misters or heat cables. The top of the enclosure is a heavy-duty metal mesh, which is perfect for allowing proper lighting. Huge on providing UVB, proper infrared, and visible light, and a mesh screen allows you to do that without any issues. And one of the most practical elements of this enclosure is it does ship flat packed, which is going to save you a ton on shipping. So whether you're looking to upgrade out of the starter enclosure you currently have your animal in, or maybe you're looking for a new animal entirely, I absolutely recommend checking out ZooMed's Repti Habitat Pro 120 for all of your enclosure needs. For more information on this or any other ZooMed product, make sure you head to zoomed.com or check out the link in the show notes or the YouTube description. Right. So I think that's a good way to segue to get us back to the kind of the history of the species. Like, as you'd mentioned, you're paying a local to go collect wild snakes for you.
For $1.
And they want your money. So they're coming back and they're going to give you a bag of snakes and they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear, whatever you need to hear to make that transaction. So who knows what's in that bag? So that's a great point. And then the second piece too, with like the separation of the species. Can you just walk us through not every single locality is a separate species, right? You said it was a split to 4.
Right. We have a map. So if you go to
is that in Rico's presentation or
no? Well, we can do that too, but go to I think it might be in locality. Yeah, locality. So you see the third and fourth picture from the top row where you have the two maps, and then if you click on that one, it'll take you right to what we're talking about. It's the third picture. I guess for me, it would be to the right.
I'll just start with this one. This is not, I don't think this is the one you're referring to, but we'll go.
So that's just another map. I mean, these are the 4 species, right?
Okay, here we go. Yeah.
And so they've divided them up where they're finding them. And you can see on the PNG side, where you can see the green and yellows. I don't know if they can see my mouse, probably not.
No.
But if you go over a little bit more to the right to where the 2 arrows, and then there's some green right there. Now you see they're finding 2 different species in the same area. Right. Also, if you go up more into the highlands there, they're all yellow. Well, even back up, that whole highland on the PNG side, you see green and yellow in pretty close proximity.
Yeah.
And then even when you get on the right, and then you come straight across, and then you can see again, there's a green dot and a yellow dot. There is some separation there. Now, obviously, they just said that, this is more, there's no, Wamina, I don't know if they want to say Wamina is that yellow dot because it's not.
This?
But yeah. But Wamina is close to there. It's very, very, very close to there. But notice how they ain't catching no other animals around there.
Yeah, yeah.
On this map, right? Notice that. So, and then, obviously go to what they call the bird's head part. And then that's all like Sorong, Manikwar, it's all blue. And then you go down to Aru and it goes back to green, which, would symbolize, because even in the scrub pythons, there's three phenotypes of scrubs, and they look distinctly different. One looks like a mainland, what they call a southern scrub, a southern type, but even then, but that's what they like to call it. And then there's one that looks kind of like a Classoleptis or a Serum python, what they want to call a Moluccan. We'll get into that as well. And then there is the other Aru that resembles a Halmahera python. And then right next to Aru is the Key Islands, where it has a scrub python that looks like the type 1 Aru python, which resembles the Clastoleptis. And these are all on separate islands in the Maluku chain. And then obviously you see the green down in Australia too, the Cape yes. York and down there as well. So distinctly, these animals were separate. I think this is it's either 2014 or 2017. I think it might have been 17 when this happened. So, but think of the years between they started breeding in 1944 and they were immediately crossing localities because so-and-so gets this blue animal in, and then we're talking about high blue lines, but these blue animals exist naturally in the wild. Like you can get one. You don't have to, make a designer blue line animal because they didn't make a designer blue line animal. The animal came in on an import and it exhibited blue. They pulled many animals from the wild that have looked like that. Mm-hmm. They still do. I see them online for sale all the time. Or they'll keep them and send them to their buddies, before they even put them on Morph Market or Fauna, or their buddies get to see them first. So not saying that you can't have your own blue line of animals, but in order to have a blue line of animals, you have to produce nothing but blue line animals every single time. And no one is doing that. They're not producing any of those things like that. And so let's just say they stopped importation today. The green tree python is toast. It's toast. We already know, and they can't deny it. You go to we pull up Morph Market right now, 90% of the animals on there are designer, whatever that means. And so if someone just wanted a regular to breed, so wrong. It's like if I wanted to, I'm gonna create two situations really quickly. Let's say I wanted to breed, they keep talking Trooper Walsh line. So if I wanted to do that, ideally, that means I got to find everybody who's got animals that have Trooper Walsh on the pedigree, even if it's one time, because I'm interested in Trooper Walsh. I don't care if the animal is male or female. I don't care how it looks. I don't care. I just need that name to be on the pedigree because, see, what I'm doing now is called pedigree stacking. They're not familiar with this. The reason I have to do that is because these bloodlines are so outcrossed. These, you know what I mean? That I have to stack them up. So I got to stack this with this one. I'm not necessarily worried about inbreeding because they never did a lot of that. So I don't have to worry about my COI being high. So if I want to create a bloodline from a fictitious bloodline, this is how I have to do it. I have to get everything associated with Trooper Walsh. And then I have to write a program and breed all those animals so that I can get Trooper Walsh. I want to see TW on my animals' pedigrees at least 7 times. Right. On every individual animal's ped, you should see TW on there 7 times for my first few generations. And then as it goes on, you're not going to see TW anymore. You're going to see my initials. You're going to see RF on there. RF. You might, if you get the 7, 8 generation pedigree, you might see the Trooper Walsh animals way back on there. You know what I mean? But after a while, you're going to stop seeing them. But what that tells people, if they really know what they're doing and how this goes, is he started with Trooper. His lines are based off of Trooper Walsh, right? But my pedigree proves it, and so do my animals, because 80% of what I breed are blue line animals. So I know when I put this animal together and this animal together, I'm going to get at least 70, 80% blue line animals. So unless you're doing that, you don't have a design. You can have a line without a design, because that's a whole, designer animals are strictly for money. That's all they're about. Now, let's say I wanted to breed pure so wrong animals. I'm not going to be able to do that on a program scale because there ain't even 30 people who breed pure so wrong animals. Because everybody coming into the game now, depending on who you're listening to, they're going to just go buy a designer animal for $2,000 or $3,000, and they may or may not breed it. But when they start saying, hey, maybe I can make some money, that's how people who have never bred anything breed green tree pythons. So, ultimately can't be that hard. But looking at this map as well, all the localities have been crossed 10,000 times over. And so that also means that all the species have been crossed 10,000 times over. Dan just did a whole video.
I was just going to say, I think that's very reminiscent of what Dan was saying.
Yeah, I talked to him about it. We talked about it for a good minute. And I was like, yeah, bro, I don't even think, should we even be talking about locality anymore at this point? Because if they stop it today, the pure green tree python was going to be finished.
And that was Dan's point. It's that these pure localities are basically going to disappear.
Or there are really no pure localities.
Which is it? Yes.
Right. Which is it then? Because these, like I said, in the beginning, if you look, they have the early family tree, pedigree, whatever they want to call it. And they're telling you then that they were outcrossing these animals, at that point. So immediately, this animal was bred based on how it looked, not based on its health. Like, here's the thing. So-wrongs don't get as big as Arus, right? And Arus don't get as big as Biocs, right? So all these species actually have other things that separate them, besides patterning. And like Arus have only ever, that we know of, produced yellow babies, right? And for the most part, I think it might be, back in the day, so-wrongs used to come over as red and yellow. I haven't seen a red so-wrong baby in a very, very long time. Now, in the UK, Greg Maxwell wrote this in his book. He said that some guy in the UK said that he was producing red Arus. We never saw any pictures. I think somebody in that case would have, taken pictures of those animals, or even none of those animals ever ended up over here. It is possible to produce red Aru babies, but you'd have to do it on a breed back program.
Right.
And so basically what that is, you'd have to find, kind of like what they're doing with the designer animal. The only thing is you have a base animal, which is nothing but Aru. So you might only have 2 or 3 animals that are not Aru just to get the red coloration. And then you're constantly breeding back to Aru.
Right.
So, but it also depends, like, you can't control nature. You know what I mean? And so you could try something. It's like with the ball python. For so long, no matter how much it was mutated, you bred it, and there was always that normal in there, like letting you know, like, yeah, I'm still here. And and so, but what I was getting at is these animals are different sizes, different weights, they have different shades of greens, different stripings, different everything, right? So if you have a line of green tree pythons, then you have a lot of questions that can be answered as far as I'm concerned. How big do your snakes get? Because you've crossed a so-wrong into an Aru, and I just said that Aru and so-wrongs are considered to be the smallest, and Arus are considered to be one of the larger, next to Bioc. And even some Maroques have gotten pretty big. But also keep in mind, we're talking about captive breeding. These animals are generally going to be bigger than they're supposed to anyway.
Right.
Because, they got them in, they believe that they need this tiny amount of space in order to be comfortable. And that's not true at all. But there's so many questions, like, how big do your particular snakes get? No, not how big. You can't tell me green tree pythons get between here and here. No, bro, you just outcrossed localities. And you don't even know about your own animals. And I know that they don't know that, because when I ask them how they're bred, this guy who's been breeding for like 20 years says, how's it bred? ? How are you breeding your own animals and you don't even know how they're bred? Are they inbred? Are they outcross? Are they inbred outcross? Are they line bred? Are they, you're the ones who've been doing it. I'm the buyer. You're the seller. So you can't tell me about how much they're going to weigh. You can't tell me how long they are. You're not doing a panel. I might have to ask for a NIDO test. There's a lot of questions that I have as someone who really breeds plants and animals and has done this for a very long time. I can always find some questions to ask.
Yeah.
because my main thing, if like Nido is so bad, I think that should just be a standard. Like I shouldn't have to ask for a Nido test. But,
Yeah.
like I said, we got like 10-day water changes. So it all kind of like makes sense. It falls in line. If you're not even changing the water, a Nido test really ain't going to be that important to you either.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's for your client. If you don't care about your stuff, that's fine. You know what I mean? But I don't want any of that stuff over here. And so there's if these bloodlines and pedigrees are so important, how come there is no centralized? If there ain't going to be a reptile registry, I feel like everyone wants to keep doing these chondro websites. They've been doing this stuff since the 90s, and every single one of them has failed. Every single one of them. None of them are around, or they never go the distance. And they never go the distance is because if you can't even write a pedigree, how you going to run a registry?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. So what else we got?
Okay, let's see. Here's the another kind of a breakdown of the 4 species.
Yeah, and so all these names are localities
that are associated with that specific species.
That are associated with them.
Yeah, so that's a lot of them.
It's a lot, and some of them are double. It's like you see, like Kofi Al is on there 3 times. Yeah. But even then, there's still a ton of them. You take away the duplicates, and you've still got a ton of localities.
Oh yeah. And you'd mentioned that, let's see, this is a picture of Wamina. You'd mentioned some interesting things that happened when you were there. You had referenced that a little while ago.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump into that story?
So 2012, that was like my 5th and last time going over there. And me and a few friends were going to go over there. We were going to do the thing. We were going to go to Jayapura. And then we were going to go to Wamina and Oscabil. And so we got there June 3rd, right? And so we're waiting for one of my friends because he was late, and so we're in Jakarta and we're chilling. And that night, like early morning, 2 of the Indonesian police ran over 2 people in Wamina, right, and killed them. And so Wamina went nuts, just absolutely went nuts, right? And so they got the 2 guys and they beat them to death. And this all happened on the 4th. And so by the 5th, the military went into Wamina and they opened fire on these people in the mall. They set their houses on fire. They set all kind of stuff on fire there. And so you couldn't get into into Wamina. Well, what typically happens in Indonesia when something like that happens, because all those people rally together, the Melanesian people, they Jayapura flipped, and then they opened fire in Jayapura. So we really couldn't go anywhere. And so we're like, man, maybe we'll try to get a car and see how far someone will take us. And we just decided that we were just going to stay in Jakarta and for the 10 days, because we're like, bro, you can't even go anywhere. There were no flights going into Wamina from Jayapura. And you can look all this stuff up as well. It was pretty bad. A lot of people got killed on those few days. And that's not the first time I talked about that in one of the other presentations I did back in the day on one of my older channels.
I remember
about all that stuff that was going on over there. But if you know the history of Indonesia, I mean, it's a bloody one. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, even how some of the tribes were tricked into losing West Papua after the Dutch gave them their independence. The Indonesians came in and made them vote in this fictitious election, and from there they just assumed power, and it's been like that ever since. But yeah.
The one thing that I was shocked to learn about Indonesia just a couple of last week was it's one of the most populated countries in the world. Which is crazy. It's in the top 10. I think it's like 200 million people, or hopefully I'm getting that right. But it's an astounding amount of people.
It's very densely populated, and when you compare it to other places because it's an island, bro. And the crazy thing about it, oh man, I lost my point. I was gonna say something in regards to that, but no, it's the history of it itself, and then even. If you go back towards, I would say, if you look at like where they started documenting over there in like the 14th century, and this one was still a lot of cannibalism and stuff like that was going on over there. And when they started trying to settle over there, bro, like they were met with a lot of resistance. in the beginning, and then finally, they were able to go over there and do what they needed to do. But it is there is like when you go to Jakarta and you're in particular markets, especially at night, like bro, like if you are not careful, bro, like you will, and you're not paying attention, and especially like I don't drink, so and it's not easy to get weed over there. You can, but it's not easy. And so when I'm over there, I don't do anything, and I don't drink really anyway, because you have enough drinks, bro. You'll end up back at your hostel or your B&B, wherever you're staying, and all your stuff will be gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Just from walking around, you'll be eating. You eating. You don't even know, bro. You've been getting pickpocketed every 15 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. Your watch is gone. Your phone is gone.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I recommend if you can get over there. I mean, just in general, it's a beautiful place to go. I mean, Bali is like all touristy now, so if you're going to go do that thing, it's totally different from being over there. If you're actually going to go, like if you're going to go do what Eddie did.
Yeah, because where does Eddie go?
He goes to Batanta.
Okay.
Yeah, he goes to Batanta from. I believe they leave from Jakarta and then they go into Batanta. So
and he's looking for blue tree monitors.
Right. I talked to Eddie about 3 weeks ago, and they're still working on that boat, and they're going to be sailing it. They're still, the goal is still to sail it there. I don't know exactly how much research because we were talking about other things, not to say that he's not still continuing that, but we were more so talking about some other things, just in relation to Indonesia and things like that.
So is his plan to sail the boat from, is it in Florida? And then he's going to sail from Florida all the way to Indonesia.
Right. That's the plan.
Oh my gosh. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. It's it's a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's, okay. So that's interesting. There's it's an interesting country. There's interesting dynamics. I think the fact that the species itself has a lot going on, whether it's the 4 subspecies or the fact that there's lots of localities, added to the fact that when you're importing animals, you don't really know what you're necessarily getting,
right,
and
sure.
And then you layer onto the top of that when you're looking at these animals visually, there's a bunch of gray area, like lots of crossover between 2 different localities. So what exactly are you getting? So when you say that there's nobody specifically working with a certain locality, somebody might think they're working with a locality, but it's
that's an issue too. Right.
But you don't necessarily know. And I'm not saying that maybe there are people that really do know, that went to Indonesia and picked out the animals from that specific spot and were able to bring them back in. You can maybe claim that is pure locality, but other than that, it's a pretty muddy waters, I would say.
Right. And so this map is actually the dividing map for scrub pythons, which also share most of the same all the same localities as green tree pythons. If you see you see where they have Jayapura twice, but it's the big thing right there, right? And then, but up in the corner is actually Jayapura, Sentani Airport and all that stuff. And so then Wamena is down right there, right? So it's gray. Now, the legend says that the gray area is the Central Highlands. Now, we had somebody in the comments was like, they don't know why that Rain can't understand that Jayapura and Wamena are the same place, pretty much basically because they want them to be. And it's going to be hard for me or anybody with a working brain to accept that a location 350 miles north of another location is the same thing when we are talking about locality-based animals. So that's why we were saying, is locality even real then?
Yes,
and then those 2 animals, I've had Wamena scrubs and I've had Jayapura scrubs, and they're distinctly different. One is actually considered a bar neck and looks nothing like a Wamena. And we're going to show this as well we're going to show all that. But if they were the same, why would they separate this stuff? I mean, if it's the same, it's the same, because equal is equal, right?
Exactly.
Or no?
Well,
because maybe I don't know the definition of these words.
Exactly. I think the fact that these localities overlap between the 2 groups of species is very interesting, and it's obvious because typically localities develop due to geological barriers, in whether it's a mountain range or a body of water, or they're on an island, and these land races develop due to the less frequent breeding between the 2 populations. Yeah, there might be some gene flow between the 2 in some small areas.
Yeah, how come we haven't seen any of these designer type animals in the wild?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because we just saw that we just saw that some of these animals live in pretty close proximity. So if we know that you were crossing them in captivity and you were selling them as, some people are selling them as designer animals, and some people would just like to put the cross up there, but ultimately that ends up turning into a designer animal. And like I said, this is just a map for scrubs, which also share the exact same localities as green tree pythons. And then
they deal with the same geographic
the
barriers.
same. And then so here they even have now, not this one, but there is a map of the Maluku province as well. And I want to, like I said, Dylan, you can just go through the slides, bro. You ain't even got to be in order, really, bro. You know, I do this in my sleep. So this is a central highland animal. This top one, you see where it says Wamina?
Yes, right? And we're onto scrubs here, but it's
right, because they suffer from some of the same ignorance from the same people. So, and Oscarbill is also considered a highland animal, a central highland animal. Now, I don't know what the next picture is, but it might be a Jayapura. Yeah, no, that's a serum python, which is one back then they called it Morelia classoleptus. This is like 2010. This is from the Mark O'Shea book I have downstairs.
Okay.
But they now call this the Moluccan scrub python.
Gotcha.
Which is BS, because you see serum scrub python described from the islands of Seram and Ambon, right? Classoleptus. Now, Aru is in the Moluccan province. Tanimbar is also in the Moluccan province. Halmahera is also in the Moluccan province. So how come this snake went from being called the serum scrub to the Moluccan python? Let me say it like that. The Moluccan python. Why? Because they consider this to be the best looking snake. And so that's what the hobby does. They just rearrange stuff the way they want it to be. So now that is the Moluccan python, and everything else, you know, this is the Halmahera, this is the Tanimbar, this is the Aru. The Key Island is also in the Moluccan province, but they don't call that a Moluccan python. So it's like little stuff like that, bro. It's like, if you can't even figure that little stuff out, you know, then you got to understand why I wouldn't want to talk to some of these people in these pets. Because, you know, I got a lot of email. You should bring so-and-so on. You should bring, you probably have never seen one of my podcasts. And if you're asking me to bring other people on, it just, we're talking about Ruderalis, indica, sativa. Look how tiny Ruderalis is.
Yeah, it's a little tiny shrub.
Look, well, see how all they're different species of cannabis. They all look different. They're all exhibiting different and this isn't phenotypical, this is species. Because the phenotypes, you're only going to really exhibit that when the plant actually buds. Right. So that's like when the snake starts going through its OTC, is where you really get to see what the phenotype is. But if I start crossing all three of those, sativa, indica, ruderalis, I'm going to end up with some type of autoflower hybrid that could be extraordinary and give me 10 pounds, or I've had autoflowers come up and they're dead in a week.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You don't know. Or they could only give you a gram. Like you wait for 45, 60 days and all you get is a gram. It happens like that, bro, because you can't control ruderalis.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And here's just the shape of the,
So the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. So these are not only three distinct phenotypes, these are also three distinct bloodlines of Staffordshire Bull Terrier.
Right.
And so the Staffordshire Bull Terrier is like, I forget all the letters. Kyan knows this because this is his dog. It's like A line, B line, J line, R line, and all those lines. You can go back and you can trace them all back and why those particular animals look the way that they do.
They have a slightly different skull shape, and even though they're the same animal, exactly.
But genetically, right? If you test them, they're all gonna 100% SBT.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And so here's
this northern that looks a lot like that Wamina scrub that you were showing. But this is the guy in the comments that was like, he can't understand why I just, can't say that. But in this description, he says Wamina Jayapura, but then he told me, and I'm sure that'll pop up too, but they were the same. There's a Jayapura that looks nothing like the animal. Go back. Those animals don't look anything alike. That's a bar neck animal with a muted pattern. If you go back to those Waminas, they look nothing. It looked like this. Yeah, look at that. This is why this is why it's hard for me to understand.
Yes. Well, and I think even just making the point that this is a mountain range, right? Like these,
it's a mountain range.
so it's these animals that are up here on the coast are not. That's a big enough geological separation between the two to actually have a distinct group,
Right. Well,
distinct locality.
But then the logic behind it is the airport. So if you catch it in Wamena, but it leaves from Jayapura, it's a Jayapura animal. But what if I caught them in Maroke, then I caught some in Tanamera, and then we flew to Wamena? What happens then? Are they all Wamenas now? There's no direct flight from Indonesia to the United States, right? So that means if what they're saying is true, if it's based on the airport, then that means you got some California scrub pythons or you got some Texas scrub pythons, wherever their final destination was. And truth be told, that is the actual now locality of the animal, especially if you plan to breed them. You are breeding. That's why. And you can't say I'm lying, because what do they put on captive bred animals? US CBB or UK CBB. They're telling you the location of where the animal is currently.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're breeding animal, when you take a presa from the Canary Islands, stop on that one for a second. So if you take a presa, right? If you go get some presas from the Canary Islands, right? And then you bring them back to Canada, and then 15 years down the road, you've been breeding these dogs under your program, right? So you now have your own bloodline, the parent bloodline. Your dogs exhibit the phenotype and the temperament that you like after 15 years, right? Your dogs are now, those are Canadian Perro de Presa Canario by default, because that's where they've been breeding. Why? Yes. Your water, the water, air, soil, and all that quality is different everywhere. Mm-hmm. Even in states where there are imaginary lines. The cannabis people already proved that when they did, I don't know, I might have said this 2 or 3 times, but I'll say it again. They gave 32 breeders and growers, cannabis growers in the state of Colorado, the same strand from the same mother plant. Everybody grew it the way they grow it. And then everybody took a clipping and they submitted it, and they made a poster. I used to have it. They made a poster out of it. Every single one of those clippings looked different.
Right.
Why? Because every single one of those persons, they live. Even if you live in the same area as me, your program ain't the same. Maybe I use compost tea. He uses synthetic fertilizer. He uses cow poop. I use rabbit poop. He uses this kind of water. I do reverse osmosis. He uses tap water. You see, all those things matter. And that's why when you take animals from the wild and then they stop exhibiting particular traits, is because they're not getting the nutrients and the minerals and the vitamins and all that stuff that they need, because animals are basically drinking from mineral pools at least once a week. And if they don't know that, there's even been studies and whole documentaries about these pools that exist in nature. And that's like one place where the animals meet up and there's no problems there.
They all know they need that.
Right. Like a cobra can meet up with like a rat and they can drink from there and there's not going to be a problem. Now, 6 hours later, though, it might be a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a proven fact, bro.
I mean, we've had that issues like with I think Abronia, there was issues with, this sort of been solved now, but lots of animals that came in that were green, within a few generations they're looking blue, and the reason is a dietary issue. They're not being fed the right things, and they're not able to convert certain things into the color of their scales.
And very few animals are actually green in nature. That's the other thing. Green tree pythons really aren't even green. When you start breaking down the layers, are actually brown and black. But to our eye, because green for an animal isn't the best color to hide in nature, plants are green because they produce chlorophyll and it makes them green. That's why they're green. But I have a whole article about reptile scales, and if you go through the layers, they're most like purple and blue are very rare colors as well to see in nature.
Yeah, blue is almost doesn't happen at all. Actually,
I
think even a blue jay is not even blue. Like if you look at a blue jay feather under proper lighting, it's actually a brown as well. It just reflects blue. Yeah,
right. And green is like. It's like the bottom of that list. It's more common than the other ones. But very few animals in nature exhibit specific colors. But so here, it says Wamena/Highland crossed with a Jayapura, $3,000. At least the shipping is free. But Wamena/Highland, what that means is it's a Highland animal, and that it did leave from Wamena, but then he crossed it with a Jayapura animal. Now, if Jayapura and Wamena are the same thing based on the airport, or if they're the same thing in general, they're not. Why wouldn't he just say Highland? Or why wouldn't he just say Jayapura? Mm-hmm. It wouldn't make sense to me. If they're the same thing, I'm going to just make it easier for my client and call him a Wamena. Really, if that's so, what that is telling you is it sounds like some kind of scam might be going on. I'm going to call it a Wamena and sell it for this price, or I'll call it a Northern and sell it for this price, or I'll call it a Jayapura and sell it for that price. But how is it when I mention that comment to the green tree python people, they all laughed because the guy who said that is a scrub guy. But they were all like, I've never heard of Wamena and Jayapura being the same thing. Like 10 out of 10 said that. They all said that. And so I said, yeah, me either. But apparently because of the airport, it's the same. I said, yeah, we all know that things leave from airports and we know the BS behind that. Murdoch just stated that back originally. So, yeah, but if Wamena and Jayapura are the same and we're talking about locality based animals, why are we even have any distinct notions about what a locality is? And it really shouldn't matter.
Well, the other thing that I'm noticing now too is do in the markets now when people like Morph Market and whatnot, is everybody using Morelia viridis, or do people use these? Because if
some
it came
people
from
do.
If it came from Wamena or if it came from Jayapura,
yeah, how would you know? Right.
And it looks like it's a different species, right? This is the one of the other species, because I'm colorblind, so my yellows and greens are pretty tough. But this is yellow up here, right?
Yeah, that's yellow, right?
So that's not a Morelia viridis.
No, that's
judging by this map.
Uteranius.
Which means if it came from there, technically it's not even Morelia viridis.
No. So that's the thing what if I caught one of the green ones in Morocco and then I left from Wamena. So do I now, and we're talking about species wise, maybe they need to start doing some blood tests on these animals, some panel testing. That's what needs to happen. Especially before you start toting off things like albino and melanistic, like you should probably blood test these animals. Like panels are very important, and they're not going to tell me they don't exist in the reptile community because I took a excerpt from a herpetology book that I have downstairs where they were blood testing animals before breeding, and they even recommended that we do that. So yeah, that makes sense. So I'm just saying these were herpetologists that said that. I'm not even a herpetologist, so
yeah. So I wonder if anybody in the hobby is using the other species. Like if you go to Morph Market, can you find other species of?
No, you can. Let's go to Morph Market, bro. Let's go there. We ain't got to talk about it. Pull up Morph Market.
Let's see.
We'll go there. I'll pull it up on my phone. That way I can.
I'm just curious because it's possible that they don't even use.
Some people, I have seen some people use the other names for maybe like a Biak or an Aru occasionally, but
let's see.
The first animal is an outcross.
Right here, this Sarong Biak.
Selling for $3,200 next to a pure animal, which is crazy to me.
So again, it's the viridis. So
yeah, he says right. I think a lot of people.
I mean, that could just be semantics, right? Like I could be kind of nitpicking that, but at the same time, like if we are talking about pure localities,
but they're different right? Yeah,
it's the wrong species. It's the wrong species.
Right. So that's one thing. So you'll see a couple pure animals, like, but let's just go.
Am I sharing?
Yeah,
this
I can see. Yeah, I can see. Let's just go down the line. You got your first animal outcross, then you got a pure cyclops, another maniquari, and then another cyclops, right? So one, and then your first three. But then the next one is a designer male. Open that designer. See if there's a pedigree there. No, there ain't no pedigree, but it is a red baby, of course.
Yeah, we're going to get into the babies for sure.
Right. So $3,700. Let's go. What's the description say about the animal? Let's see. The sire is RC, da-da-da-da-da. That literally means nothing to someone who is new. You know what I mean? Like, so are you selling to breeders? Because if you're selling to breeders, I would think like most breeders just sell directly to breeders, right? But all of this garbage here means nothing. Why? Because you can't click on any of it. And it takes you like, you go man, I can pull up a Instagram American Pit Bull Terrier breeder, and every dog has got a link to their pedigree, to the registration. Because what the hell does RC19-25R2D2 pancakes and honey buns mean to me if I don't know anything about green tree pythons? And even that I do, I still don't really know what that means, other than, yeah, what did he breed it on, the 16th or the 11th? Or what? No, it's, if you're gonna do this, you need to know how to do it properly. Like, this is what they call like gobbledygook. And that's a real word. And that's what this stuff is. Mm-hmm. And so then the next one, designer outcross, that USCB, I bet you that's an outcross too, because I know that. That's an outcross, $3,500, year old in May. Let's see. I ain't seen nothing about no Nido on that other one. Did you?
No,
I didn't see Nido. So here, her lineage includes productions from Trooper Walsh, Tim Morris. Yeah, we're going to get to them pedigrees too. So nothing about health, nothing about Nido, like, but I got to pay $3,500. I guarantee you, if I were to go down my list of questions, it wouldn't be able to answer them.
Right.
Click on the one next to it. I'm almost certain that this is it's probably an outcross too. Go to the description really quickly. Yeah, it's an outcross. USCB outcross, like mystery. I think that's the name of the animal, I guess. But unproven, like, you know, $1,500. Like, for, if you want an outcross animal, great, fine. Like I said, people, listen, if I'm not into the mutations, I'm not into the outcrosses. I prefer hybrids more than anything. But if you want to spend money on this stuff, that is absolutely up to you. The whole purpose of this is because I just get so many people asking me, why is it $8,000? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what none of this stuff means. I just want a good green tree python. Where do I go to get one? And I'm like, bro, there's very few people that I can personally recommend. There's another Wamina Highland Manic Wari. So, like, why didn't
these yellow babies do look stunning, though. I think they just look amazing.
Yeah, I like them all. You know, it's crazy that they push these red babies, you know, the way that they do. And then some of them don't even turn into anything. But no, I think that's a beautiful animal. Like, you know, that's one thing. Like, some of these animals, these outcross animals do look amazing. And then some of them to me just look like pure garbage. But I think this, no, I don't. I might know who this is, but because I do talk to some of these guys. You know, and I'm the same way with them as I am now. Like, and I'm not, if that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. But why are some people mentioning Nido test and other people aren't? So is Nido a problem or is it not? And then we have some person telling people not even to worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
all right.
Classic.
Well,
yeah.
Don't buy nothing from that one. But if you were to go through the next page and the next page, like, automatically, almost everything on the first page, 80% of the first page, designer. Look, the first rows, designer, except for two animals, they're all designer. Then designer, BIAC. When I say cross, designer, whatever, because they're like, oh, I think he doesn't know the difference between a designer and a cross. Actually, you guys don't even have designer animals. And I'm going to prove that too. Because in order to have a designer animal, you have to be able to replicate the design every single time.
Yeah, so do we want to go here? I'll close this.
Let's pull up some fluffy Frenchies and ball pythons. That is a designer animal. Why? Because if I get an animal, a ball python that's het for albino and another one that's het for albino, and I breed them together, I get albinos. That's a true designer animal. If I buy a fake fluffy Frenchie, because we know that's Frenchies don't come with long hair, like Kyan was saying, and all those colors don't come with the bulldog, and that's designer stuff. So they crossed that animal and then they bred it back and kept what they wanted, right? But in order for them to continue to make the money and have the product, they have to be able to continuously reproduce the fluffy design.
So if you like the fluffy design, you could go buy two fluffy dogs, and then you would get
breed
fluffy
them,
dogs
and you'll get
litter.
fluffy. Green tree pythons, that's not happening anywhere.
So I mean, the ball pythons are a little bit better for this. When they're producing morphs, when they come out of the egg, you at least can have an understanding of what that animal's going to look like as an adult. Typically, animals fade as adults, and ball pythons don't look as good. But you can get a sense of what the pattern is going to be and maybe what the color. But green trees are quite different in that regard, right? Like when they're born, obviously when they hatch, they're not even the same color they will be as adults. So there's no real way to know what that animal is going to look like. So
without keeping them.
Yeah, without keeping them, seeing what they turn into, and then can you even lock in some of those appearance things? It's hard to say. Like, could you even lock in a design potentially? But it's hard to say.
Over time, under the proper breeding programs, you could. But being that reptile genes, I always describe reptile genes as being soft, as hard, and mammal genes as being soft. And the reason I say that is just a simple way to put it is it's easier to manipulate mammal genes through breeding than it is with reptiles, which is why you can get totally different physical appearances with mammals. But you're not seeing that with reptiles when you're breeding. Like even with these mutations, the animals still, for the most part, look the same. Now
the frame is the same, yeah.
Right. Over time, we're starting to see it. Like I said, I didn't say it was impossible or that it wouldn't happen. I said it's harder, which is now why you do see ball pythons that have different heads than a wild type ball python, or different lengths, or even green tree pythons. Dan was talking about this. See, I'm all about characteristics. I don't like all the heads on green tree python. So when I go green tree python shopping, I'm looking at the head. I want to know the length of your adults that they came from, because I don't want a 6-foot green tree python. I like the so wrong style. So even if I was into designer animals, that's what I would be looking for. But where the hell would I buy it from? Because we're talking again about an animal that is being bred because it's got a little bit of black on it, or it's got a little bit of blue. The animal is being bred for the thing that matters the least. It's being bred and sold based on its color.
Which is that's what we saw in the ball python world. It's starting to come down, I think, or slow down, and people are being, I think, more respectful for the animals. I want to say like 5 years ago, especially when I started the podcast, ball python morphs were at probably a peak. And at that time, there was a lot of like I guess for lack of a better word, like kennel blindness, because people were, it was actually almost endearing to produce an animal with only one eye, or an underbite. They call them like shark mouth or whatever it was. Right. Like there was just different physical deformities that we were living with as part of this morph production, and it was acceptable. That's the word I'm looking for. It's those things are becoming less acceptable now.
That's what you got a different group of people coming in. You got the fur moms, the fur dads, which translate to, you got reptile moms and reptile dads, and they're not on it. And I'm not saying I agree with them, but they're not on it because what you said, yeah, for sure. Dude, Kevin created the spider ball python, and then he knew that it had problems and he bred it anyway. And I've said this on record here, another podcast. I've been on so many, and I've said this many times to people. And I said, it doesn't matter what animal it is. Once I start seeing that type of stuff, I'm stopping everything.
Yeah.
And now I got to start figuring out what's going on. Because if you got money wrapped up in this, let's just say all I want to do is breed for money. Well, I still want to at least get my animal to my people. At least they can die when they get there. I don't care. I got paid, whatever, if you're going to be, you know what I mean? Some people don't like that. Yeah. So, right. But if I'm really serious about this, why would I want to produce something on purpose that is less than what it's supposed to be? Yeah. That's like if you had an opportunity to give your child, let's say your kid can go to public school for free, or you can go to the best private school for free. And you're like, man, I'm going to send you to this public school, whatever, Yeah. So you had the opportunity to give him more, and you didn't.
Yeah.
People may not be able to draw a parallel between that, but what I'm saying is, by not breeding an animal that's messed up and stopping that right there, you showed a lot of restraint for yourself as a human, and you also showed a lot of respect for the animal itself.
Yes. Yeah.
There's other ways to make money. There's other animals. Like I have imported and exported for quite some time before I stopped doing it on a commercial level. So I've said this before. I'm never going to say that I didn't make money selling animals. It didn't start that way, but it just happened to be that way. And, I don't do it anymore because I just find it hard to place animals with the right people.
Yes.
Whether it's dogs or snakes, bro. Like you give something to someone and then they flip it, or they trade it for something else. And that was their plan all along.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
whether it be dog, cat, snake, frog, it doesn't matter. But when you breed an animal and you've been running a program for 20, 30 years, bro, like you're gonna want those animals to go to specific people
Exactly. Yeah.
who are doing programs. Like, why would you spend so much time getting a blue line animal and then outcross it to a yellow animal? Or just you just bought a regular something came in from Reptile Direct, a BIAC, and so you've got this reptile with these insane bloodlines, and then you outcross it. It must
Yeah.
not be that insane. Because if I had an animal like that, I'd be trying to find a more insane bloodline to complement on the same level. But because they're all going different ways and they're all doing different things, like I was talking about Pat Patrick, like he had fans and he was a fan of someone. And so they kept that stuff going. 20, 30 years from now, you'll still be able to buy Pat Patrick dogs.
Mhm.
Real
Yeah,
ones.
the horse world is like that too, where you have certain
Horse, pig, goat, all
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
all the farm
If you got
animals. Yeah,
serious breeders, bro, yeah, they don't be having them pig shows for nothing. We
yeah,
telling people, but these people have admitted they are not professionals. They say, I am a hobby breeder. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. But then they question the professionals, which is
Mhm.
crazy to me. Like, you can't tell me you're a hobby breeder, but you can. I don't care, but yeah, it shows. Like, what do we want to look at next, though, on this?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
else
Let's
do
see.
you got?
Okay, I'll read off the folders because we've gone through the history. I think people got a good base of the history and the localities. So, I mean, it's kind of a big question mark there as far as what comes in. You don't necessarily know unless maybe you have a connection with Dan and he, he's there, boots on
Right,
the
or
ground
somebody
type
on
thing.
that level, they're going to say what they need to say to sell animals.
Exactly. I think we've gone through the designer bit, but maybe we can look at the designer bit a little bit more. Like we wanted to talk more about the melanism and albinism as well.
Oh
And
yeah, for sure.
and I think maybe this is where it's. And I'll start to share this my screen in a second. But this is maybe where we start getting into the red and yellow babies as well, because I think that's a pretty perplexing thing for some people. Like especially if you're not in the green tree world like I am, it's just like okay. Let me pull this up because there's some kind of funny things that happen there as well.
Let me get to my note section on here. I think that's either going to be albino or melanistic. That first one. Oh, or started with a hybrid. I just put that slide in there because it's like first yellow, mellow yellow hybrid, but it's not a hybrid. Sorry. It's not a hybrid until they do it again and then
I
cross
see.
those
Yes.
animals
Yeah.
together. It's not a
Yeah.
high. I mean, it's the start of hybridization, but you don't, it's a hybrid because you cross this and that. But if you're talking about selling that animal as a
As a
mellow
hybrid.
yellow, they have to do it again with a whole set of unrelated animals bred to that animal. And then you have a mellow yellow.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
was to show the different types of albino that they talk about in the reptile world, but there's more types of albino as well. And we're going to talk about those too.
Okay. So this is, I think this gets into the albinism, like the copper.
Okay. Yeah. So let's see. Which, okay. This is albinism, right?
Yeah.
So let me let this thing get off of here. All right. So obviously it says a severe deficiency of copper can lead to hyperpigmentation, right? Or a loss of pigmentation as seen in certain syndrome. Menkes, symptoms, pale skin, lighter hair, neurological damage, and hair fragility, right? So then RPE dysfunction. Now, retinal pigment epithelemium. Albinism affects the eyes. We know that, right? And this is often shows abnormalities in copper, as often shows with abnormalities in copper and zinc metabolism. Now, this Rufos albinism, I was telling you about that. That actually exists in the area that I grew up in with the people, and I've never seen it anywhere else. And like it says here, that this form only affects dark skinned populations. Hair and skin are often reddish brown in context described as a copper red. And this is a type of albinism. And it literally only mainly exists with Aboriginal people. And I know plenty of people that exhibited this, that I know them personally. Like this Rufoso albinism was in my area growing up, and now you don't see it anymore. So when you see something like that, it's telling you copper. Everything here is saying copper. So there's either too much copper, not enough copper, or something ain't right with the copper. It's
Yeah.
something in the diet which is brought on by the environment.
And you know, like a traditional like albinism mutation is an issue with metabolizing copper, as far as I understand it. So that's where you have a simple recessive gene that can be passed on. That's the animal is not able to process copper properly and produce melanin.
Right. And so then the next one, let's see, the one next to that, 3367.
Is that one? 3. For some reason, I don't know why they're different labels on mine, but maybe.
It might, or maybe they're just right next to each other going to the right.
You can.
Let's see. Hold on.
What is it? What does it say?
It should say copper is a heavy metal, an essential mineral that supports the following body function. Right there. Okay, so so this is why you need copper. So why someone is spending 20, 30 years trying to produce an animal on purpose that has a disorder just to sell it to you for large amounts of money, to me is hilariously crazy. It's like a tragic comedy, bro. Like, doesn't make sense that you would purposely want to breed an animal that is not what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So copper, heavy metal, an essential mineral that supports the following body function. Excuse me. Metabolizing iron, forming enzymes that produce energy. That's probably a really important one, the energy part there. Building connective tissues. That's probably another good one too on why you wouldn't really want to be doing this on purpose. Developing new blood vessels, balancing hormones that make nerve cells, regulating gene expression, promoting a healthy immune system functioning. Mm-hmm. So when you don't have copper, you don't get those things, which is why they keep saying all these albino chondros keep dropping dead after so long, so many days, so many months, 2-3 years, whatever it is. Like, well, there you go.
Yeah, so they're I mean, it's a disorder, right? It's
a disorder, and disorders as far as I know, in genetics class, rarely is it just a disorder a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's the next one?
This is dealing with excess copper, so like copper toxicity.
Yeah, we'll just read them all, man. So, because this is all about melanistic and albino, all of this. So, it said medical conditions that reduce the liver's ability to remove excess copper from the body can lead to copper toxicity. Wilson's disease, a rare genetic disorder involving mutations of the ATP7B gene, which removes excess copper into bile, right? Minsky's disease, inherited disorder due to a mutation in the same gene, which transports copper throughout the body. Liver disease, hepatitis or inflammation of the liver. Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer. This is also associated with melanism, because copper and melanism are also directly associated with each other, just like albinism and copper are, because you need copper to do both things or not to do both things.
Yeah.
So leukemia. Leukemia is actually, I don't want to say common in scrub pythons, but it is something that has popped up in scrub pythons. And I'm just saying normally, because if you know anything about like malaria and reptile diseases, which I know a lot of them don't, and they've openly said that lizards have more malaria than humans ever had. There's like 200 something strains of reptile malaria. So they study malaria in lizards to find out how to for us to better deal with malaria.
Yeah.
And so it's extremely prevalent. But then when they were talking about outbreaks and things like that, I might even have some of that stuff in here too. But so brain cancer, liver cancer, breast cancer. Okay, snakes might not have breasts, female snakes, but that probably translates into something else for the female.
Another tissue,
snake.
Yeah.
Diabetes.
Yeah. So these are all those are issues associated with copper metabolism, whether it's excess or not enough. And again, albinism is related to that.
Right. Can you find one that says it should start with genetic mutation, and then it goes mutations in specific genes such as TYR, OCA2.
Right here, I think.
That's it right there, right? So this is more about albino, right? So just really quickly for this one, autosomal recessive inheritance is extremely important. So generally, both parents must carry the gene mutation and pass it on to their child. even if the parents themselves do not exhibit symptoms. Okay, we understand that. Types of albinism, right? I can never pronounce its name, so I'm just going to say OCA. It affects skin, hair, and eyes. Ocular albinism, OA, primarily affects the eyes, right? Associated syndromes. Rarely, albinism is a part of genetic syndrome. Rarely, albinism is a part of genetic syndrome like Hermansky-Puldock syndrome, which can include bleeding or lung issues, or Chidoc. I used to laugh at these names. Like, who came up with this stuff?
Yeah.
CH syndrome, which includes immune system deficiencies, which we just talked about 2 slides ago. Without sufficient melanin, I'm going to say that 3 times. Without sufficient melanin, and these animals are supposed to have sufficient melanin. So someone is purposely breeding an animal not to be sufficient, which means it's not going to be efficient, and then you got to pay $10,000, possibly plus shipping, and maybe get a NIDO test if you ask.
Yeah.
Individuals with albinism have increased sensitivity to UV lighting. So before I go any further, do reptiles need UV light or not?
Yeah, that's yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's go. And typically experience vision problems due to abnormal eye development. Why would you want that?
Yeah.
Just so you can, nah, bro, that's no real breeder would ever do that. And that is why they continuously say, I'm a hobby breeder, because they are treating this like putting together model cars or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's crazy. Like, so I'm not even gonna say that out loud, but let's go to the next one. Okay, it should say OCA1.
This one, I think. Is that it? There's an OCA1.
Nope. It'll say that's it right there.
Oh yeah, here,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so OCA1, right, is caused by mutations in the gene that encodes this copper. How many times are we gonna hear copper in here? And then I said copper to you about this, on like my first or second podcast with you, I was talking about
first, I think, yeah.
And so we've heard copper a lot of times. So encodes this copper dependent trynosinase, resulting in little to no melanin production. Right.
So that's, as far as I understand, it's an enzyme that requires copper. And then the enzyme results in melanin production.
Right.
And people take copper as a supplement to stop their hair from turning gray.
Right.
Which is exactly what that is. The follicles of your hair stop producing melanin, and part of that is if you do have a bit of a copper deficiency, or if you're, I think if you have too much zinc in your diet, it can block the copper from being metabolized properly, and then your hair could go gray, and that's directly linked.
Exactly what it is. So then you have abnormal copper metabolism and albinism. So here it's telling you that there's something else, that the metabolism in albino animals is not normal, or albino anything.
Yes. Yeah, so it's basically saying copper accumulates.
Yeah. Accumulation studies have shown that some people with albinism have elevated levels of cerebral plasm and serum copper. Metabolic shift, because the body cannot produce melanin, which normally binds and stores copper. The excess copper may not be metabolic. God, goodness gracious, I'm having a metabolized efficiently. God damn, I cannot talk today. Copper toxosis. I didn't smoke enough weeds today. That's what it is. Copper toxosis risk. Oh, there's risk. Damn, there's more risk. Man, okay. Due to this metabolic abnormality. God damn, abnormality. I'm reading back like I'm in 5th grade trying to read big words before I knew them. Individuals with albinism, they're going to have a field. They're like, he couldn't even read. This is how you play Go. This is how you get them. So before they make a video, you got to stop it. You put it to bed. Yeah. So due to the metabolic abnormality, individuals with albinism might be prone to copper accumulation rather than a deficiency.
Right. So because their body's not using the copper that it should be, it's accumulating in their blood, as it said above. And then we've already gone through all the risks of copper toxicity. When you have too much copper in your body, we had listed them out earlier. That was the cancers and leukemia and different things. So it's not a surprise that animals that potentially have a higher level of serum copper are going to die prematurely. And it doesn't even get into the other stuff like whether or not they're going to be hypersensitive to UV or be, essentially blind or have vision issues. They might just be dying because of this.
Right. And so we got one more slide, and at the top, well, for this one, it says inheritance patterns.
Let me see. There it is.
So this one is very important. We talked about autosomal recessive inheritance. We know what that is. Now, so we're going to skip down to X-linked recessive inheritance. Primarily affects males who inherit a changed gene on the X chromosome from their mother. This next one is the one I really wanted to talk about the most. Sporadic mutations. Pay attention, people. Sporadic mutations or de novo. Occasionally, the mutation occurs spontaneously because they're going to tell you that it doesn't. But none of these people are geneticists, so they really shouldn't be telling you anything. Spontaneously in a developing embryo without being passed down by a parent.
Right.
So maybe you don't even have an albino. Maybe you don't have a melanistic animal. Maybe you got this, and this isn't something that is going to be passed on, which is maybe why you have so many trouble passing on something like that. Then it talks about the physiological mechanisms. And from here, it's like, it's basically just talking about how it's supposed to be distributed and it properly synthesized or used. A lack of melanin during fetal development leads to improper development of the eye. Again, which it says is characteristics. We know that. You know what I mean? We know that already. So it's telling you that, well, yeah, you may not, for a human anyway, you may not die, but you are gonna, you may not be outside if the sun is out and it's just blaring. You're going to have some extra skin care application. But if your skin is so sensitive, you might not even be able to wear that stuff. It might even cause more problems for you.
Well, yeah, and I think, who knows? I don't know. It's funny because I have seen plenty of people with albinism because part of being in the sporting world is people with albinism will compete in the Paralympic side. So because they are typically blind or almost not blind, but they're classified as blind athletes. So you see them on pool deck, and even the bright lights of pool deck, they're constantly wearing sunglasses and things like this because it's just too bright. But I also wonder if maybe they are doing things part of their health routine to deal with copper toxicity. Maybe they do something. I don't know. I mean, we shouldn't speculate, but
I think some of them may be recommended. It depends. I guess it depends on what kind of albinism you have. Of like what your doctor might say you can or can't do. Like and I don't. In the 90s and the early 2000s, used to see a lot of albinos, and I don't see them much anymore. Like when I'm out anywhere, I was like, man, I start thinking about them. I mean, I haven't seen an albino in like quite some time. So again, like you said, maybe something has been fixed in the water or in the,
who knows?
Maybe they turned the air filter on that they hadn't on in before, and so you're not, just like I had no idea. But
I mean, we know that mutations can be caused by environmental factors. I mean,
for sure.
That's a pretty well known thing. So who knows? Environment changes, maybe there's less likely to be.
Yeah, stress on your environment can do a whole lot, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so down in the corner of designer, you're going to see, you probably see it. It's that black looking animal, the melanistic one. And then there's like, actually, you know what? You don't have those pictures.
Okay. Do you want to flip them up or?
Yeah, let's see if I can. Let's see, where's the screen share for me?
Here, let me stop and then it should let you pop in. There's just that arrow.
Share.
Or you can put it in the chat. Even I think
can I do that as well?
Yeah, if you drop it into the chat, I should be able to just pull it onto my side.
Let's see, because I want to talk about this melanism thing as well.
Yeah, because I think that's an important one. I mean, the moral of the story too is producing animals with known genetic issues is there's an ethical boundary there. Whether or not we should be doing it is, I think, a great question. And there are certain physical phenotypical characteristics that have potentially nothing to do with being able to be transmitted, vertically into the next clutch or the next, generation, because It's just not something that can be, like if if somebody was born with with missing a couple fingers, that's most likely not going to be. Oh, here's in the chat. If you're born with a deformity to your hand, that's most likely not going to be something you'd pass on to your child, right? Because it's something that happened in utero. There was an issue with development, but that's not in your genes. It's just something that happened in development. So you could have an animal that has a deformity like that. That's never going to pass down through the genes, but you might think so because that's what we're sort of used to. So I'll download these pictures really quick, and then we can pull them up. I mean, you can see why these animals are attractive to people, because they are like
some of them not, and I've said that a million times. Or like some of them look great. Like actually, these one, like the sickness, I think is a decent looking animal, but that one that's green, it looks like someone just ripped the top. Like that looks like I got a picture of a Frenchie that looks just like that. It's a design. Let me put that in the chat too, because for comparison, it kind of reminds me of that animal. True designer animal, because like I said, like you're not putting none of them are putting these animals together and you're getting 100 sicknesses or animals that close to it every single time.
Right.
Like this to me, I don't really like that, but is this really a melanistic animal? You can't tell me yes or no if you haven't blood tested it. So I had a whole thing on here and I named it melanistic or melanosis line. Right. Because like we said, and I would just read it. The sickness is a high melanistic animal. It died before it was 5 years old from a tumor. Now, I already have articles here that tell you that high amounts of melanin, melanosis, and things like that are directly associated with tumors. And also copper, again, comes to play. You have many different types of melanosis and melanoma, melanosis, B12 deficiencies as well. Like you have the types of melanism you have, though, are adapted. You have thermal, industrial, pseudomelanism, and it's ill-melanin, and phenomelanin. So there's 6 types, right? So to just say that I have a melanistic animal, and then melanosis is like the bad part. So you have an animal that could be exhibiting melanosis, and you're saying I have a melanistic animal, and I'm going to try to reproduce this, and then I'm going to sell this to people. Right. But then the animal doesn't get that far. I think they only bred it like once before it died. Like to me, I'm like, do I really want to breed that at 4 years old with a tumor? Black animal. The first thing I did or would do is what I did. I don't even have this animal, because I'll be honest, I'd love a naturally colored green tree python that was black, but the snake already exists in the form of a Boland's python. It already exists. It's a semi-arboreal snake. It spends enough time up there, but you got to pay $25,000 for one. Mm. You know what I mean? Like, so trying to create something that already exists rather than, how about we drop the price on those Boland's pythons to something that people can afford? And then maybe we could have a better population of CB animals all over the world. But who's got $20,000 to get a snake that you probably aren't even really going to get to breed? Very few people have had success with that snake. And they've even gone as far as to hybridize the Boland's as well. It's been crossed with carpets. They were crossing scrubs at Australia Zoo. I have the articles. They were crossing scrubs at Australia Zoo back in the late 70s with carpet pythons. Mm. So this designer hybridization, it's nothing new. You know what I mean? But the green tree python really doesn't have any morphs outside of albino, but albino it doesn't really exist. You know what I mean? Nobody is producing or reproducing albino green tree pythons.
Yes, yeah, exactly. If it's happened, it's just a fluke sort of situation.
They get, I think it's been like less than 20 in 30 something years. Like that snake to me just looks terrible, bro. Like that's just my opinion. If you like this shit, that's what you like, bro. But this thing looks like someone, it looks like it got burned and it's trying to heal. Yeah. But here's the problem. You post that and everybody likes it. That's one thing I can appreciate about the dog world and the horse world. And because then you post something crazy, they'll be like, bro, why'd you just post? That's some garbage. But you don't get that in the reptile world. And I think that's a part of the problem, because that also goes back to every animal. Just because you buy something doesn't mean that it's breed quality. But they don't grade these animals. They keep what they think is going to do something. until it proves to do nothing, and then it ends up on Morph Market, the holdbacks.
Yeah.
And then, there's this huge price difference between the yellow and the red baby. So you could imagine a red baby coming off of an animal like this. It's going to be outcrossed. You're still going to pay $8,000-9,000. I think there's one for sale, a red baby, unproven. It's like $8,000 on Morph Market right now. How do I know that this isn't melanosis? And you can't prove, you can't even argue that with me.
Well, I would say it's a pretty big red flag, the tumor thing. I know in the leopard gecko community, there was quite a few morphs that went down that path of developing tumors. And they basically, as a community, they came together and put a stop to all of those because the same, I forget, like lemon frost, or I can't remember the exact morphs, but there was a lot of morphs that were developing basically cancer. And yeah, they looked cool, they had interesting colors, but the community said we got to stop this. And if this animal died of I don't know if this is the animal. Is this the animal that died of a tumor?
No, that's not the one. It's this one. It's that one. Yeah,
that one. Yeah. And so that's a pretty big red flag. I just wanted to show that this thing.
Yeah, dude, that kind of looks like, that reminds me. And people, this is a real. As much as I hate these things, people buy them. This is a designer animal.
This is a French bulldog with a long hair.
Fluffy Frenchie. That they have gone to the extent to say that there's this gene. No, there ain't no gene. What it is you have people that have money and they go and they get people to do these reports for them. And now all of a sudden it's some gene. Bro, I did a breed profile on the French bulldog like 2 years ago on the channel. And it never, the only thing that has ever changed, one, the French bulldog is from England. It's not even, bulldogs they're all from England. It ended up in France because the ladies who were making the clothes, the tailors, they took the dogs with them because they used to take them to work. And when they got contracted to go make clothes in France, they took the dogs with them. And so the French loved the dog. And so from there, something happened and the dog's ears started to stand up to where you see it now. But if you look at the old French bulldogs back in the day, they were even smaller. And a real French bulldog is rare to see, a real one. But their ears were like that. They were pricked like this.
Not fully standing up straight up.
Yeah. Now they have what they call bat ears like this. So when the Americans came over there, the North Americans came over there and saw that they wanted the dog then, and then they started bringing the dog back over here. But between then and the first Fluffy Frenchie, it never existed. These weird merle colors, none of that stuff existed because this dog has been bred to another dog.
This looks like an Australian Shepherd or something.
Possibly. You got Chihuahuas that come in these colors now. You got Dachshunds that come in these colors. And a lot of these colors are made up, just like the ball python, bumblebee, spider. They got like ghost lilac, all kind of craziness. So, but that is a designer animal. At least they are being honest with you. It is a designer animal. It's a walking vet bill, but nonetheless, it is a designer animal.
Yeah.
I'll put this up too. This was interesting. I found this yesterday. We were talking about stud fees. We're talking about a designer animal. Woo, wait till you see this one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me put this in. It should. There we go.
Look at that.
What is that?
So it's an English bulldog.
Is this a hairless?
Yeah, it's a hair. Look, it says Velvet English Bulldog Blue Tri. So this dog has most likely been crossed into a Sholo. That's what they were using because they even have hairless pit bulls now. They've been crossing them into Sholo Queensley, which is a hairless breed of dog from Central America. So you see, the dog is only up for stud. Lock-in stud fee, paid in full, early entry. This dog is probably going to be dead in 2 or 3 years. That's why he's trying to get his money now. Yeah. Once it says, once he, what does it say? Once his pup, wait, let me open this up. I've got it right here, but I can't.
Once his price will go up to $3,500. So this is like get in now.
Don't miss before he's fully matured. So here and again, we got someone breeding an animal, giving you sperm from an animal that's not even fully mature yet. That's no different than you selling me an unproven green tree python that you never bred for $7,000. I don't know what but most likely you're going to get this again. But this, I guarantee you won't hear about this in 2 or 3 years. Projects like they tried this and they just keep collapsing on
It's like the scaleless ball python.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Because they did that too, and it was a huge thing, and everybody thought it was the coolest thing, and it looked a lot like this dog, and it disappeared because I assume the animals died, which is sort of the way that things disappear, right? The two that pop up, they just die and nobody hears about it,
right?
Or maybe they bred them, I don't know, but you certainly do not see scaleless ball pythons everywhere, and you know. Snakes are supposed to have scales, so taking them away is probably not the best thing for their health, just like dog is supposed to have fur. Like I imagine this dog is going to have some skin issues. You're probably having lotion on it.
All kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting one. Since we were talking about red babies, or let's talk about the red babies.
Let's can you quickly, you'd mentioned it earlier, so if you're sending me something, you maybe or I don't know if you're sending me something, but I can pull up a picture of a red baby here. Can you quickly, you had mentioned that not all the localities produce, like some localities produce only yellows. I don't think any produce only reds, but some produce both yellows and reds. And I think,
right.
And maybe I'll let you take it from there.
So this one doesn't need to be there. That's a double. So
a red baby.
Obviously the green tree pythons, when they're born, you can see them anywhere from this vivid yellow, which doesn't really have too many shades. But then when you get into the red baby, sometimes they're orange all the way to like a black or a chocolate brown. And so it has always been the assumption that the red babies are the ones that are always going to exhibit the most this or the most that, because in some cases, and more cases than not, but we're talking about in a controlled setting, the red babies were like, oh, this one came out like this. Oh, this one came out like that. And so that started this whole red baby craze, to the point to where there's this huge price difference between the red babies from the same clutch. So what that tells you is, one, these animals are not being graded. Two, you're being scammed, because what if the yellow baby is the better animal than the red baby? What if the red baby is sterile? What if the red baby doesn't go all the way? Or how about what I'm about to send you? What if the red baby does this? Wait till you see these three. So, and this is a dark red baby, right? So if red babies are the bee's knees, right? Like they say, you got to get, because that's all they push is red, 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 red. You see someone have a clutch, yellow, 1,200, red baby, same clutch, 25, 3,500. Both animals.
The premise is that they will look better as adults.
But yeah, that ain't true. And they've even admitted that. I've heard them in their podcast say that. So there's one, like this is one, because there's no uniformity between, like they say, there's no honor among thieves, or there ain't no honor among green tree python breeders either. That's why their pedigrees are like 18 different ways. So here, I sent you something.
Yeah. I put them in here. We should be able to. Oops, I went the wrong way. Hold on. Where did they go?
Okay. Go back. So that's the red baby. Look at the parents, right? The parents is one of them melanistic animals, right?
Down here, these are the parents at the bottom.
Right. So on both sides, on both sides, right? So go back to go to the next. So that's the animal. Man, I've seen $500 BX that look like that and better. So,
and this is the red baby.
That's the baby.
This is the animal.
Don't really look like none of them animals. Now go to there's one more slide where the description is right here. Go back. Look at the description, right? All that blah, blah, blah.
Hey, Nido test.
Yeah, right. And I was going to say, and that's what I was saying when we did the part one, is some of them, each one of them has an element. Like this guy's Nido test. This guy does free shipping. This guy's pedigrees look better than the rest. If they could all just get on the same page and put all this stuff together, so to bring some uniformity, like you go to a real professional dog breeder, cat breeder, horse breeder, you're going to go to their page and you're going to see OFA 2005 certified, 2026 pin hip, score this. Panel test, blah, 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 accreditations, whatever they're everything that they've been doing. And people are like, oh, well, we don't do that in the reptile world. Well, that's your fault. You could do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing these things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can make podcasts. You can get on and make podcasts every 52 seconds. So you can get on and you can do the same thing. Like, it doesn't make sense. But then the lineage, go back to the thing. I want to read the description because the description is crazy. Insane lineage on this boy and some crazy siblings, great budget animal to produce some cool blue line stuff. I gotta, this is why I don't need my own channel anymore, because the stuff that would be, how are you going to produce a blue line animal from this? I didn't see nothing. What? Let me look at it again on my end. I mean, I don't. So you bred a melanistic animal to a high yellow animal.
Or are these the siblings down here? Is that what it's?
Or is that what they are? Oh yeah, they are the siblings. So that's even, bro. That's even worse. That's even worse.
So what you can see here is just the variety that can come out of a single clutch.
Out of a single clutch from the, he says direct siblings. Direct. So how you got a black one and the yellow one?
Yeah, and then that's what it looks like at the end.
And then the sibling one just kind of looks like a regular old Wamina. I've seen some Waminas that kind of resemble that. And then this like other
look.
Yeah, some sibling 4 ain't nothing so special. I've seen wild caught animals that look like that. You know, they may not have as much of the little yellow patchy stuff, but yeah, so direct siblings, it's even worse than those being the parents. So if they thought they were going to be like, oh, those are really the siblings, it really just makes it even worse that these are the siblings. But it also goes back and it proves my point of what I was saying. You got 2 kids. One looks like this and one looks like that. One's taller, one's shorter. You know, like these are direct siblings. I would never have guessed.
Yeah. It's. I wonder if they're actually from the same clutch too. It's pretty interesting, and the fact is that you can't predict what the animal is going to look like at the end. So it is kind of. I mean, maybe there's like a 2% or a 10% chance that the red babies do turn out nicer, but obviously it's not always the case.
But I've seen yellow babies that come out that do the same thing,
right?
But they don't want to talk about that because it's an image thing. We said this before. We're buying these animals because they don't have a daily function in your life. So you're buying an animal visually. So unless you just like yellow, then red is going to be what you're looking for.
Right.
But you got to think like these are direct siblings. It doesn't say if these are F1s, F2s. So what I'm thinking, if you say, when I tell someone those are direct siblings, and obviously they have to have the same parents. But if I say that to someone, I'm saying that they're out of the same clutch. And that animal for sale seems to be around the same size. So probably around the same age as
the siblings. Yeah.
So they probably, and so, yeah, like that to me, I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to buy nothing from him because he said something about a blue line animal. I don't see no blue. And don't get me wrong, green tree pythons, for the most part, most of them will continue to change for anywhere from 2 to 5, 6, 7, 8 years after they go through what looks like the full change. But some of that stuff is so subtle that you don't even notice it. And some of those guys, they exaggerate. Like, oh, I mean, he had a little black spot right here. Like, Max, bro, that's a bruise. Shut up. So you don't even know the difference between a bruise and a melanistic scale, bro. Like, that's bad. So, like, how I don't see me making blue line animals from that. Personally, as a person who has been breeding animals as long as I have. When I'm thinking I want to make a blue line animal, I want every single animal is going to be blue. That's how you make blue line. They don't make a blue line with a yellow line. Come on, man. That's common sense. That's why I'm like, the comments were crazy to me. I'm like, God, man. So what else? We're in the designer folder.
Should we toggle over to marketing? This is where we get, because
let's go into marketing.
It becomes more of a there's the positive feedback, which we got a lot of on the last episode, was lots of people who love green
want to buy these snakes.
Yes, and they're just totally perplexed by Morph Market, and they want and rightly so. It's a fantastic animal. Like we said, it's like this almost this like icon of our community, and they're just confused and they're not sure. Like, did I spend $7,000 on an animal that doesn't have maybe the bloodline that it's claimed to be? So a lot of this is clearing that up, and maybe at the end, maybe we'll kind of close off with how, like, what you would do to sort of rectify to clean some of this up. But we'll talk about that later. Let me pull up these marketing ones. Okay, we'll go with this. Do you see that?
I can see it. Okay, that's what I'm looking at too. Cool. All right. So yeah, here we have a outcross animal, Lyra to Sorong, right? It's a decent looking animal. It kind of looks like the animal we was just looking at on the other page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So, but these are two locality crosses, right? At least the shipping's free. But we go to the description, and then the description says ready to breed. And that's just they're basing that on the size and possible age of the animal. This animal could be sterile. Siblings have already tried. The siblings have tried. Well, trying ain't doing it. So I don't know. You know, as a breeder, you gotta words matter. You know what I mean? Words matter. Period. Breeding or not in life, words matter. So this was a red Neo. There we go. That's a good selling point. Possibly carries, possibly a red Neo, and possibly makes me worry. Possibly carries some amazing high yellow genetics, but you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
A stellar addition to anyone's collection. I agree, it is a beautiful looking animal. Amazing yellow Lyra male, Sorong female. You could seriously enhance your yellow or blue line with this unique lineage. What lineage? What lineage does it have? No, you see? But then when they say in the comments, I don't think Rain knows the difference between a designer and a... No, you guys don't know what you're doing and you're lying to people. And this is the proof, bro. I don't, like, look, and maybe this person, I don't know this person, and I guarantee you they're probably getting, I don't know how long they've been doing it, so maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but they're probably getting their information from the wrong people, which is why they are setting their descriptions up like this. Because if you go to some of those people's descriptions, they sound very similar. But you just told me from a breeder standpoint, I'm cool on this animal. Like, because you just said that possibly, because that means you don't know. So that means you don't know what you're doing. You don't know anything about your animals, even though you bred them. Because I'm wondering, were these two wild caught animals? Because it doesn't say that these were CBB Sorong and CBB Lyra.
Right.
So if these are wild caught animals, what the hell is the lineage on them?
Yes. And I think you're probably right to say, like, it's important to say, like, I don't think everybody's trying to get out there and lie with their descriptions. They're just using the information that they have, and that's probably the animals that they bought, and I don't know who the specific person is either. And, if I got into green trees now and you wanted to work on a project, you basically have to work with what's out there, and you're going to morph market, you're doing your shopping, you're pulling them in, and now you have your quote-unquote lineages based off of what the others have given you, and you're kind of starting in a weird spot, and you kind of have to work with that.
Yeah, or you have to do this in order to sell animals.
Yeah.
Because look, we ain't even done with the description. Please be the first to own one of these red. There it is again.
The red.
Well, you already told me it's red up here, bro. I can read.
And we just showed that red doesn't always mean
red doesn't, and they've even said it on their podcast. The many, all these different channels, they've even said that the red babies just sometimes turn into a regular old looking green tree python. Hey, but you know what? I want to give this guy props. At least he did give a description. At least the shipping is free, and he is saying that it's got a negative NIDO test.
Yeah.
Because some of these bigger names, they ain't giving you that. So, I can commend him on that. And like I said, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt is that he's maybe having a hard time selling animals in comparison to some of these other people. So he got to say that. He just said red twice, bro. I can read. We can all read.
Yeah, but like you said, that's sort of the allure of the red baby has kind of taken over that entire community, it seems like.
Right. So let's go on to the next one. Is another outcross. Well, what? Let me find that one. Whatever picture you put up, I'll just find it on my thing, and that way I can.
Yeah. So these are yellow babies.
Mixed locale, one Aru, and then that USCBB. That's mixed locale too. 1800. So 1800, 1300, 1650. Right. So you got a land race animal. That's a CB animal. Okay, that's cool. But then you got these mixed locality animals. So it doesn't say what they are. So obviously, I don't know if these animals are slow. These are screenshots, people, so we can't click on them. But am I led to believe that A mixed locality animal is more valuable than any pure locality animal because you can't make the mixed locality animals without the pure locality animals. I would think even a wild caught animal would have more value than any of this stuff in captivity for many reasons. One, due to the fact that how some of these people even keep them is why I don't want to buy none of that garbage. I'm not buying no tub bred animals, period. And I don't think anybody else should either. You know, I'm not against selling and breeding. You know, I made my bread and butter off of that. But there's a way to go about it. So, you know, like I said here, it doesn't really make sense. Is that you got a mixed locality animal is almost the same price as a pure locality
more,
animal, right? So it's like, yeah, they're more. So what am I doing? Like what's going on here? Like, how do I know as a buyer? Like, what do I want? Do I want a mixed locale? What's the locale? Well, is it maybe? So then you start getting to the point where, excuse me, people want to start making requests. It just starts happening in the dog world. Hey, can you breed this snake with that snake and put them together and see what they'll do? And I might want one of those babies. I'm surprised that we really haven't gotten to the point where clients are asking for that, because the breeders, that's pretty much what they're doing. They're just throwing stuff together. We've already seen that. They can't tell me that this stuff is well thought out, because we're going to get to them pedigrees. I can't wait to get to that again. So what's the next picture? Okay, let me pull that one up. Let me see. So high quality green tree python. This is an outcross. This is a wild animal, 1250. Biak Aru 18, Aru 1650, another designer 1750. Let's see what's at the bottom. Cut off on my screen.
Yeah, it's cut off. I think it's cut off.
But it's all good. But again, it's like same thing. You got this wild caught animal for 1250. It's a land race, right? Then you've got this Biak Aru red baby, so you know it's going to be it's the most expensive one on here. It's definitely
and it's the mix. Yeah,
right. Now here's the funny thing: if that red baby and that yellow baby is 1750, if those babies were in the same clutch, that red baby would probably be 2875.
Right.
That's crazy. For an unproven animal, it's unproven, it's unsexed, and you're gambling with it. Exactly. If I'm a breeder, I don't want to buy a gamble. I'm a breeder and I'm trying to keep my path, my pace going, and you're trying to sell me, man, this guy's got excellent lineage, that's why I outcrossed him into something random. What? No real breeder does that. No one who says that they have a bloodline does that. So what's the other picture?
Yeah, here's another. Here's okay. So right, there's a red baby. Just like you said, this is this. I think maybe potentially the same clutch here. This 25
maybe
same breeder.
3200.
Maybe different clutch. Yeah, could be different clutch. Doesn't matter.
Free shipping.
Yeah.
The damn UB 10 2004. That tells me nothing. You know what I mean? That tells me you can't. It's so stupid to put stuff like this there when you don't have a reference link to, even if you just listen, okay, you don't want a centralized hub for green tree python stud books or whatever, then make a website. And some of these guys do, but they're still, again, they're lacking. They got a website, but it don't take you from your morph, like you're selling on Morph Market. I should be able to click on that link and it should take me to your website or to the registry, and then all the animals. Then I can see who UB 10 2004 actually is.
Right.
I shouldn't have. I mean, most of these guys, they don't want to talk to you anyway. They just take your money. You know, all I want to do is take your money. Like, they're just taking your money. They don't have to talk. I could buy that. I could. There's an $8,000 green tree python for sale right now. I could buy it and don't even have to talk to nobody.
Right.
Don't have to talk to anybody. Oh, that's a good one. Hold on. Let me find because there's a couple pictures that go with that one. I think, let's see. No, there was actually, you know what? I think that red baby is the offspring of those. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
I think you're right. It's the same ad. Yeah.
Because I know there was. Yeah.
So this is the second picture in the ad. This is the third. This is the pairing. Yeah.
Now, see those snakes there. I think that's attractive for me personally. I like that look.
Kind of like teal greenish.
Yeah, the teal green, it's got some maybe possibly melanism or melanosis because we really don't know. But I like that look. But when it goes beyond that, like the sickness and like to an extent, it looks okay. But then after a while, I'm like, I just want a green tree python.
Right.
Like that's why I'm here. I'm here for a green tree python. So I feel like, I've had guys tell me, he's like, me, bro, I want this snake to be every color but green. I'm like, well, why don't you just go get a Bolin's or go get the snakes that actually do come in those colors? Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but you want to design, if you want to do designer stuff, do it. But let's not let the actual reason we got here be lost.
Yeah, that was a point I made years ago in a video, is that, you could spend all this time producing a black and white ball python and, take tons of time to do it, potentially risk the animal's health because you're not really worried about the animal's health. You're just focused on the phenotype. Or you could just go buy a California king snake that comes in black and white, right from the wild.
Right.
So if you like black and white, maybe find an animal that comes like that naturally, that is going to suit the visual characteristics that you're looking for. There's so many different snakes out there, the species that come in all these different colors and shapes and sizes. Do we have to force a square peg into a round hole just to make a green tree python black when you can get a Bolin's python that's already black? And they're probably going to come out with green Bolin's morphs soon.
Oh yeah, sure. And that's the thing, bro. You're just never happy because you got to think about this, right? Like what you just said. The dog breeders say the same thing. They're like, bro, why couldn't you just go get the breed that was like that? Why are you trying to? Because now you got Merle Dobermans coming out and all, they're just whatever someone can do to stay afloat and make money and feed their ego and get on a podcast. That's what they're doing now. And so we're like, bro, why don't you just go get a Great Dane? They look like Dobermans a little bit and they come in that color by standard. Go get that. But no, I'm going to ruin this dog. Why can't you just Frenchies are rare as they are already. So why would you take a dog that is so rare and now the designer outnumbers the rare, the pure dog?
Right.
And all those, and listen, people, I don't care if you got a fluffy Frenchie, a tri, whatever, it's fake. The papers are fake. Kyan already said that. I know. I mean, I don't need him to say that, but I brought him on here just as another person. They're paper hanging. You're doing the same thing with these designer animals, bro. The AKC was supposed to crack down on that because they know that those dogs don't exhibit those traits. But it's hard to stop it when you got 20, 30 million extra dollars coming in literally every year because the French Bulldog in its current state has taken over for the Golden Retriever registry.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, because the Golden Retriever was the highest registered dog every year with AKC for the last 20-something years.
And they all look like Golden Retrievers.
And they all look like Golden Retrievers too. Now you got this fluffy Frenchie and these Frenchies that come in these different colors that are now because everybody has one. Why? Because here's a problem. If I buy a blue line animal from this guy and a blue line animal from this guy, I might not get blue line animals. But they know if they buy a fluffy Frenchie from him and a fluffy Frenchie from her, they are going to get more fluffy Frenchies. There is no doubt about it. So you can't say you got a designer animal when you can't even replicate the design. If you don't have 100 of them, you don't have a designer animal.
I think the way they're using design is almost like any pattern that's not natural looking, almost in a way, right? Like anything that's slightly deviation from the standard green tree python that you'd see in the rainforest in Indonesia. If it doesn't look like that, that's a designer. I think that's the way that's the definition.
Well, some people, but remember the one guy said that's not a designer when they just cross it. I'm like, yeah, but some people didn't. How are some people selling it as a designer? So don't fault me for your people's mess ups. You go and they emailed us about all that garbage, but they don't email those guys because people are considering. Look at this, a designer to a BIAC, bro. That's crazy. So you got this design, $5,000, right? 5K. Let me pull this up on my screen. I feel like I should have had something else attached to this. Maybe it was nothing. At least the shipping is free. I do remember it didn't say anything about a NIDO test. It's a designer cross, most likely to a BIAC that is wild. That makes no sense. That makes no sense for me to whether I don't know how he got to this animal, But however you got there, if you really say that that animal is badass, or this is why they have things called studs. And you go to a kennel and they got a lot of bitches there, but they might only have one or two studs. Why? Because that's what they want to replicate over and over and over and over. And a lot of times that second stud is the son of the first stud. Mm. Because the whole point is not to have to continuously grab outcross animals from other people until you absolutely need to, when your line's about to tighten up. But this is the thing, you got to really be a breeder to know this. You got to see when your line is running into a brick wall, so you know how to avoid that.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
So, but that's the whole thing, is like $5,000 for a designer outcross. Why wouldn't you take a designer to forget the design? Why wouldn't you just take a designer to another designer? I could understand that for $5,000, but you're taking a designer animal that you're going to tell me has some great lineage, and then you just lost it all on an animal that has a land race animal, and I got to pay $5,000. Man, that animal is worth about $1,000 to that you outcrossed it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Here's an expensive one.
Oh yeah, and this is just some dude being a a-hole on here. So he's like, yeah, I know what I got. This is my animal. It's just a pure locality animal. He didn't breed it. It's nothing special, but he wants $7,000 for it, and you got to pay for shipping. Yeah, this is just somebody being a dickhead.
So
online.
This is the claim to be a pure locality of Jaipur, which again,
right?
We could say, like, is it? We don't know.
Yeah,
the species is wrong if it is.
So yeah, they got it. I think he said it was, I think if I'm not mistaken, this was a Bushmaster importer. He got it from somewhere, but it wasn't an animal that he produced. And that animal is worth more than $1,000. It's never been bred, so it's not proven. You know, that's another thing, bro. Like, selling unproven animals or telling me an animal is ready to breed is crazy. No, bro, you just say that you have an unproven animal. But that's what they used to do back in the day. But unproven, they don't do. Yeah. Not, and unproven, never been bred. And some people still do that. I think some of the older people, but you're not seeing that anymore because a lot of those guys aren't around. They're not doing this stuff anymore. They're not selling anymore. So even with the dog world, like you've gotten some of the new breeders, they don't advertise the way the older breeders did because social media is different. You know, it's changed the dynamics of everything. So let's see. I know there's a few more ridiculously priced animals.
I think that was all I had in my folder, but we could jump over to the pedigrees if you want.
Sure, we can go there as well.
I think, yeah, that was the end of my...
Because basically marketing is like, red babies are the best. They're more, buy one. And then, oh, this one, yeah, okay, yeah, this is a good one. The reason I put this in here for marketing and for pedigrees. And the reason why, look what it says, right? So this is somebody I would consider buying a dog from, right? The reason why is because this dude took time to get a notebook. I'm not saying that we know people in the reptile world take notes, but it's always like poop and feeding and shit, bro. I really don't even care about that stuff. I could care less, especially when I got to pay $8,000 plus shipping, no NIDO for an insane bloodline. I could care less how many times it's pooped.
Yeah.
Or shit. So here, program mission. It says hard. This is his goal. The goal. He's got a goal in mind. And he's going to stick to it. So this is what I'm saying about these people. How is your goal high yellow animals and then you breed it to a melanistic animal? You're just doing, there's no rhyme, there's no rhythm to what they're doing. And that's why we just saw those siblings of those animals, they all look different. Direct siblings, and they all look different. So we got hard protection, Presa Canario breeding program, 5-generation strategic roadmap. This guy sounds serious. Mm-hmm. This guy sounds serious to me. And he says program mission, produce serious. I can't read it all. I'll have to zoom in.
Produce serious, structurally sound, hard protection Presa Canarios with clear heads, strong handler compliance, and excellent health. Centered around Ninos or Ninos.
What did we just talked about? So I wonder who Nino is. Nino. I wonder who. I bet you I could figure out who Nino is easily. Nino is the dog that he wants to pass on. He's the stud. He is what we call your foundation foundation. You see, the green tree python in the reptile world, they don't have foundational males. They can say that they do, but if you had foundational males, how come I don't see them on the pedigrees nowhere?
Or just once.
Yeah, just one time, but he's so spectacular. If he's so spectacular, breed him 100 times. Mm-hmm. That's what you're supposed to do. I bet
not 100 different times.
Right, right. To the animals in your program. Yeah. Right, not just to dude walking down the street. Like, so I guarantee you a guy that takes the time to do this is not, go look, he says, oh, let's read this thing. He says, this binder is my 5-generation strategic roadmap for producing hard protection, pressive canarias with clear heads, strong block. Well, you read that. Around Nino's proven. Wow. Hey, I like this guy. Nino's proven working style. The only reason Nino is getting bred is because he's proven himself.
It's like they don't take seeing eye dogs who failed the seeing eye dog program and put them back into the seeing eye dog breeding program.
But in the reptile world, those animals just get bred, head wobble, no eyes, heart coming out of the mouth, like flip upside down, green ball python, het for green tree python. At this point, that's what I'm waiting for. Green tree pythons to be het for other species of animals and snakes. Like, well, I got this het. Mine is het green tree python, het Bolin's. Like, okay, now I might actually be able to get me a Bolin's without feeling bad about it.
It's like, just live long enough to get the lock, and then you're good. And then the heart can stop.
He says, I'm not pairing dogs, quote, just because. How many times did I say that since we started doing this? Everything doesn't need to be bred. These people are just trying to make money by producing these animals that look a specific way, regardless of the animal's health or not. It's whatever is going to get in your pockets, bro. Every breeding is measured against a written mission. So that what he just said is he's talking about the females. Mm-hmm. Talking about the females based on what he's doing with Nino. How is Nino going to be compatible with these females based on the program that he described to us? And long-term plan for structure, nerve, and workability. That's how you get consistency, not surprises. Mm. If you're looking for a serious guard or protection dog. Now, I would consider talking to this guy if I was looking for a serious protection dog. If this guy was a green tree python breeder or a snake breeder, I would want to buy from him, or at least talk to him to see if he's really about this. Because anybody can write it, but I know this guy. Yeah, he about it though. He ain't doing this for nothing. You know what I mean? People spend too much money on these animals. What else you got? What else we got?
Okay, let's jump into the pedigree, because I think that's a good stepping stone into it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Let's see. Okay, I'll pull this one, and then that's our last folder. I'm sure we've made some people happy.
Oh yeah, both ends. They said they wanted a green tree python talk, so we gave it to them.
So here we go.
But yeah, we weren't here to sit here and talk about locality and wild this, wild that, especially I've been there. I've seen these animals in the wild. It's just hilarious to me when these guys be talking about that. I'm like, we ain't even been over there. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So actually, Dylan, go move again. That one. So this is a Patrick dog. That's the same dog we just saw. That was his registration certificate. Actually, you know what? Go back to that one. Yeah, go back to that first one. This is a registration certificate for the ADBA, which solely registers American Pit Bull Terriers. Now, remember, we said something about Amstaffs being pit bulls, but not all pit bulls are Amstaffs.
Yes.
The ABDA will not register an Amstaff, but they will register that same Amstaff under American Pit Bull Terrier, proving that it is the same dog.
I see, yeah.
So this is a registration certificate that you get anytime you buy a dog that has papers. This is how you get ownership. You don't have to fill this out, but if you want ownership and you want pedigree, this is how you do it. This is what these green tree python people need. This is what I've been trying to tell them with the whole reptile industry for a while. This is how these registries are worth $50-60 million a year. These pieces of paperwork right here. This is the money that they use to fight legislation. They're not begging anybody for anything. They don't have to. They have services for you, like, real breed clubs are supposed to. That is the purpose of your breed club, to help you, not to make things worse for you and only make things good for their friends. Mm. So go to the next slide, please. All right. So this one right here. So I'm going to pull it up on my end.
So this goes along with the paperwork, and this
Right.
is
So
the pedigree.
right after you fill the paperwork and you pay whatever for whatever, however generation pedigree you want, then you get the big one, or you could only get a second. Like that one, I think is a third generation.
Yeah.
And then there's a bigger one. So go right. There should be one more. That one. That's the one. This is a Patrick dog. Let's zoom in on this. Right. Let's make this bigger and go to the top if you can. Let me expand. Oh, I moved this over here. No wonder I can't find it.
Yeah,
So
this is a lot of there's a lot of dogs. There's a
it's
lot of tracking.
dogs.
Yeah.
Oops. Oh, I lost it. How did I lose it? Oh, what happened? Oh, I see what happened. All right, cool. I got it back. All right, so we're at the top, right? We're at the top. Let me move my screen over. So at the top, it says El Dos Bits Cortaro, right? And then it says Patrick's Rose. And then let me move my screen out of the way. That way I can just see this all. So that dog, obviously Patrick is the breeder. He also owned El Dos, right? 2 bites is what it is. So Saint S. Patrick, that's hot dog. Patrick Sheba, that's a Patrick dog on both ends. If you go down to the next one, Patrick's Bully Boy Bob, Patrick's Molly Brown. That's a Patrick. This is Patrick. El Dos. Wait, hold on, bro. El Dos, he's at the top. El Dos must have been he must have been a great foundational stud dog because we're already seeing him again. And this is where it started, right? So we go down Patrick Sally, Patrick's Poison. Ain't no doubt that we talking about Patrick. Patrick, there's El Dos again. Man, El Dos and Patrick's Rose, right? So that he repeated that breeding. So he must have got something crazy. Hot dog must have been a great dog, so great that he did it again to try to find that dog again, right? We keep going down. Again, you see Bully Boy Bob and Molly Brown again. We're talking at this point, bro, there's so much line breeding and and some inbreeding in here. There ain't no doubt on what you're going to get. You're going all the way down. Patrick, El Dos. But Patrick owns that dog. It's just he didn't breed the dog.
Right.
So again, Patrick. Now we got Steele. That's somebody else. McElfish. These are not dogs that Patrick bred, but they were bred into Patrick dogs. Below that, Patrick's Root Rick, Patrick's Wonder Woman. There's El Dos. El Dos was a bad dog, flat out. That's why they continued breeding him so many times.
Yeah.
So if you had this insane green tree python, how come I don't see no pedigrees that look like this? They ain't got to be this detailed. They don't got to be on there that many times. But the further you go down, there's no denying that this is a Patrick dog. And then you see some Carver. That was some good blood there. Carver, that's why I used it. Bordeaux, that's another one. Wallings, Arts, Missy, these are all top-notch game-bred American Pit Bull Terriers. Wildside, Vice Grip. But all of that stuff eventually, you see on the bottom end, so you see how I'm describing the pedigree? So on the bottom end, most of these dogs were not Patrick dogs. On the top end and in the back half, it's all Patrick for the most part. And as you get further into the generation, it becomes more Patrick at the top, but you go further, the top half is all Patrick, and then you go down to the bottom half, and then you're going to see a lot of different bloodlines, but these lines are also still in relation to Patrick, which is why they did it this way.
Yeah.
So when you ask how this dog is bred, I'm going to say he's a heavy on the Patrick. He's got a little bit of Carver in him. He's got some wild side to throw around a little bit. They're going to say, well, what dogs are on there? He's El Dos 5 or 6 times on the pedigree. I don't know that dog's pedigree that well, so I might just like spitball names, but Ruby Red, 4 times Ruby Red. Brent, I'm going to show, there's some more slides like that as we go through.
Like here's a horse one.
Yeah, here's a horse one. But, go back to the dog pedigree just for 1 second, please, Dylan. But no, notice the uniformity. Notice how easy it is to read. Notice it's only going in one direction. The animal in question is pictured there. Everything you need to know, who bred it, when it was bred, how old the dog is, the color, where it's from, its ancestors, who owns the registration that signed off on it. And it even says includes DNA profile.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, If green tree pythons had that, then I might understand why they might be $3,000-$4,000 if they pedigrees look like this.
Yeah.
So let's go to the horse one. I mean, this looks very similar to what we read. They just got some more pictures up here than normal, but the pedigree is set up exactly the same. It's going the same direction. You want to know? Let's find the similarities on this pedigree real quick. It's real easy. So let's look for some horses. So one, and let's find out if we can find out how this horse was bred.
Yeah.
So I
like
see
this
a lot.
is okay. Yeah. So this is something royal. So I mean, people will recognize
Right.
Secretariat. Obviously, this Secretariat came out of something royal. And if anybody knows about horse racing, Secretariat was obviously one of the best racing horse of all time, and it came from a genetic thing linked to his mother.
Right.
Which is why the mother's lineage is very important for that horse, and that's what this is.
Yep. And so here's all the dates going back to 1893.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, 1890. 1886. I didn't even see
86,
that.
Yeah,
1886. 85. Right, 85, 86. So as you go forward, you can see how this animal was bred. You see you got an outcross here, 2 outcross to produce this particular dog, Prince Rose. Prince Rose and then Rose Prince. But we can't see it on here because it won't let me. You have to actually, I think, be a member to go any further. But you start to see some line breedings with some of these particular stables and a few of their dogs. Not on, I think maybe on this particular pedigree, I think this is all, for the most part, direct outcrosses. I think there may be some line breeding. My cousin, he's the horse guy. I don't know a ton about horses. But the whole purpose of this was to show, just in general, the uniformity behind. There's almost no difference between this pedigree and that dog pedigree we just looked at.
Exactly. It reads the same.
So I wonder what the next slide might be.
Let's see.
Damn. This is a family tree, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a pedigree. Now, let me just do this one really quickly, right? So the bottom half is basically this over here. It's just from the top. You don't have to. So this is the top, JL 1501. That's the animal, or through 15 is the animal in question. So we'll start here. The sire is bred by Rico Walder. The dam, John Leckie. So that's an outcross. You go back to the sire, go down, Rico Walder, jig, dam, unknown. That's an outcross. You go for the sire unknown, dam unknown, that's an outcross. I don't know how these animals were bred. I don't know if there were a high blue, there's literally no information here at all. So the sire, we go back to the dam, there's no information on her at all. So now of the sire R1 1999. So now we go to the dam side. Her sire, outcross. The dam, is this, let's see, EB8201, EB83. So unless these animals are related, and we'll go down and see, let's just start at the bottom. That'll be the easiest way to tell me.
This one here, or?
It's the same one. It's the same one. He just made it bigger.
So
you can stay at the smaller one. It doesn't matter. You can get either one. So sire is Trooper Walsh, right? Wild. So he didn't produce that animal. Damn, wow. He didn't produce that animal either. Sire over here, I'm going straight across the bottom. Sire 2CPZ didn't produce its wild. Dam didn't produce its wild. So these are all outcross, right? So the sire here is outcross. The dam is outcross on both sides. But I think this might be the one that there was a line breeding, because 320789 and 32982, I believe those animals might be related on the back end. I think, let's see, let me go back and read this, because there's another pedigree that looks very similar to this with the similar animals, but this is still an outcross animal.
Yes,
This says 80 and 77, NZP. So I think that 320789 and 302982, I think those animals are related. But
they might
it
be
really
like
doesn't,
half brothers or
right,
whatever.
something like that. And so, but they were both crossed into wild animals, and then they were crossed into each other, which, if they are related, that would be a line breeding. So this would be a line bred outcrossed animal for the mother.
Right here,
that's on the mother side. but the father is totally outcrossed. The mother is mainly outcrossed. So the animal is outcrossed.
Yeah, because there's just one line breeding that you can show 3 generations back.
And I believe this is from a yellow line lineage, but only a few of those animals. I think this is actually a yellow line crossed with a melanistic line.
Okay, interesting. Okay, let's see.
Oh, that was one of the descriptions. Let's just read it because it's hilarious. It says, this Neo is packed with some great genetics, top cheddar. We'll see him in some of these pedigrees. Is the son of Jaeger who produced. Now, remember, production and reproduction are different. The sickness, which died, and cyanosis, I guess, who comes from a heavy blue lineage. That's not true, and we're going to go through that. And turned blue before breeding. I mean, a lot of green tree pythons do that. So if that's a selling point, you didn't get me. Crossed with a Biak, it's wild caught. These Neos are a complete wild card and would go great with any phenotype you're looking to produce. That literally is a contradiction of itself, and it makes absolutely no sense logically from a breeding standpoint. These these outcrossed babies with these great genetics that you outcrossed are a complete wild card and would go great with any phenotype you were looking to produce. All right, well, what's the next one? Oh, this is the pedigree.
Oh, this is here we go, top cheddar.
So this is the clutch up there at the top, red babies, of course. All right. So let's go to the very bottom. Let's start there. Tony Montana. Now look, this is one of the worst so-called pedigrees I've ever seen in my life. Now notice how John Leckie's pedigree looked totally different than this person's pedigree. Like everything about it, like it looks totally different. So there's no uniformity. And uniformity is very important. That's what breed clubs are for. That's why they need a breed club or a species club, whatever they want to call it, to create structure and uniformity. And we talked about that in a whole nother podcast. And there's a reason for that. But so Hillary Webb, don't know anything about it. And we can only go. So we don't need people in the comments like, oh, where Hillary Webb was. Okay, well, put that on the pedigree then. Or build a website with a link that takes us to that information. Because I can only go, and people can only go off of what they see, and nobody knows who the hell Hillary Webb is. But you bred her to Tony Montana. So from reading this pedigree, that's an outcross. Jaeger is an outcross animal. Green Deuce, son of B, those are outcross animal. I don't know who produced them. I don't know nothing about them. But they produce cyanosis. He's wild caught, bred to not wild caught, outcrossed. And then they crossed him with Jaeger or her with Jaeger to produce top cheddar, which is an outcross animal that doesn't look anything like any of these animals.
Yes, yeah.
And then they bred it to an import Biak that's totally a land race animal to get these babies.
And then basically
that Biak is a red baby, of course.
This one here.
Yeah, it's a red baby because that's how they got all those red babies.
Okay.
So
so that's part of the So if you have a red baby animal,
if it's dominant, I got that chart. I sent you that little chart too. I got that. We'll look at that too. So you got an outcrossed animal for thousands of dollars. There is not one animal. They said the famous Jaeger. Well, I don't see nothing down here that looks like that. And I don't know what these animals turned into up here, but if this was a breeding, I don't see this anywhere. I don't see Jaeger from the 2 animals that he kept. Or I don't know, maybe he gave the animal away that looked like Jaeger, or he sold it. Because a lot of times they sell them before they even finish changing.
Right, yeah.
But the darker the baby, that's the one they're going to keep. So if they got 10 in the clutch, right? There's 10 in the clutch. They're all red. But if they got 3 ones that are like extremely dark, those are going to be the holdbacks. And then when they don't turn into anything, they sell them on Morph Market like they did that one that didn't look like anything for $8,000 with some stupid ass description on it that doesn't make any sense.
And Jaeger's claim is that he produced sickness, which is the
was that right?
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's
see.
I'd
want to watch out for that line. Okay, so this is a friend of mine. I've done many podcasts with this guy. This guy is he's working on his own breed of dog. Not his own breed, but he is reconstructing a breed of dog that has been extinct for quite some time called the Allant. And so here and he's got a lot of productions. I think I might have another slide from him too. So here he's telling you this dog, this isn't the guy in question. This is this person he sold the dog to, the person holding the dog. And so this is what he's saying. The person called him and said, tonight was the first time Stack charged at the sound of someone knocking at the door. Then he goes, he tells you what he did. He's telling you a portion of how the dog is bred: Neo Mastiff, English Mastiff, Presa Canario, Greyhound, American Pit Bull Terrier, and the breakdown, right? Now, he says, line bred on our most civil Mastiff stock. We needed enough compensation. You only get conversations like this when you're dealing with people who are really breeding animals. That's why you don't hear none of this type of talk on they're always talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over. Like 30 years later, and it's still how to make a nest box, how to bring the humidity up. And if you don't take that garbage on somewhere, so we need it to encompass. We need it to compensate for the sight hound influence. This male had that serious side at 3 weeks as our fourth generation. So the reason he can say at 3 weeks is because he's 4 generations in. Mm-hmm. So he's seeing this and he's in contact with all the people that have his animals. We see that he's proving that they're reporting back to him if this is a good dog or this is a bad dog. Because if it was a bad dog, he still would have posted this and said, hey, this is tonight, such and such was in a situation and he failed miserably. We'll give him another chance and see how, you know what I mean? We understand that. And don't get me wrong, like I said, reptiles don't have that much of a function in our daily life, but people are using monitors to hunt rats. There's a guy on YouTube that's got a whole channel based around it, helping him hunt rats and weasels and all kind of stuff like that. But couldn't you have a mousing line of snakes if you wanted to? Who could say that you wouldn't? If I went and bought a bunch of rat snakes, right? And then I bred them to chase rats, so to speak. But at least I'm documenting and I'm doing something and I have a reason why I bred this guy to this guy, because when he was in this situation, it took, this is hypothetical, but it took 20 minutes as opposed to this one, it took 30 minutes. Yeah. There were different reasons why dogs or animals were being bred, and it's not because they look a certain way. That is the last reason to ever breed an animal.
Yes, exactly. And for reptiles, even if you couldn't find a function, you could also just the robustness, like longevity, how well they do in captivity, how well they're eating, those sort of
temperament. There's a whole lot of things that you can breed for. And I've had these conversations with people, some of them green tree python people, and they're like, man, I want to breed my animals kind of like dogs. And I want them, I want my stuff to be distinct. Mm. And I'm like, well, the only way to get distinction is by not outcrossing everything and sticking to the program. You don't go buy 3 yellow line animals, 2 blue line animals, and then 5 so-called melanistic animals, and then put them all. And if that's what you want to do, like, what is the goal behind that?
Yeah, and then throw a wild caught in there. Just
like what are you? I got blue line. Yeah, like there. Ultimately, I feel at this point there should be a master green tree python breeder, and maybe he don't exist because I stopped breeding, and they ain't gonna like that. But I could care less what they like or what they don't like. But if they haven't talked about a lot of the stuff we're talking about, then I feel like at this point there should be one person that has every locale, and I don't mean just a pair. I mean like 20, 30 animals of each one. Like, this dude or woman should be able to revitalize the green tree pythons. Mm. But once they started doing this whole designer thing, all that stuff went out the window. There are very few pure locality breeders. Yeah. Very few pure locality breeders. So if you wanted to do an all Aru program and you wanted to use CB animals, you wouldn't even be able to get them from anybody. Not enough for them. Anytime you say anything, you're like, oh, my buddy James breeds Aru. He's the only one though. Like, you didn't listen to anything I just said.
There's not enough. Yeah.
Right. There's multiple lines of the same breeds of dogs and horses for a reason. A lot of those lines stem from other lines. results, and they took it and went another way with it. But his program was based off of his program.
Yes. Yeah.
No one ever said that someone didn't buy a snake from Dillon and then they bought one from Rain and then they bred them together. That's the start. But you're not going to get too far with two animals, even though they keep telling people that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is one of the guys they recommended that we talk to. I can actually give this guy some props because he is using the proper name. These are pure locality animals. And you can see some of these pure locality animals look just as good, if not better, than some of those designer animals we just looked at. I don't know this guy personally. Like I said, I just snatched all this stuff off of line because
this is the first time I've seen the proper species name.
And that's what I'm saying. Some of them have the elements, if they could all just put all this stuff together. You know what I mean? But you see his pedigree still, or the chart, whatever you want to call it, it's going a total opposite direction of the other ones. It looks nothing like the one we saw first, which looks nothing like the one in the middle. If you want people to respect you and trust your program and really recommend you from a real breeder standpoint, they're going to want to be able to, just doesn't look right. It looks stupid. Like there's particular paper for a reason. The same way they print money on cotton and linen paper, one, to give it value. They don't print money on the same paper you would print this PDF thing out on. The old regular paper from the dollar store.
Exactly.
Oh, this is a good one too. So Old World Buck from Diesel, inbreeding, 2 times Diesel, 4 times Sam Majestic Maximus. He just told me a lot of what I needed to know. I know the dog is inbred. He told me that. And he told me how the dog is bred. 2 times Diesel, 4 times Sam Majestic. So if that's something, a line that I'm interested in, Old World Buck might be somebody that I want to get a pup off of. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That's the same one we just looked at.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We looked at this one.
Oh, here's one. The Glacier line. I don't have the pedigree for this animal. I don't like this animal in particular. That's just my personal preference. Like the animal just looks sick to me. But some people like it. And if you like it, great. Good for you. There's a few more of his siblings in here. And I just wanted to show like some of the distinctions. And there's another one.
Interesting.
Looks to me, doesn't look anything alike. But I also don't know the animal that we saw before is still going through its OTC. So I don't really know how, or at least I think it is. It looks like it looks like a smaller animal. It looks like it's still changing, but maybe it's not. Yeah. But I think that it is. And then there should be one more. That one, like I see similarities, but I see some different. Like what I see distinctly, and this is a good example. While I pulled this, is that thick dorsal line. Right. Now, how often that's actually being thrown in the babies? Because look, I don't know if that's the same. Is that like I said, how this was labeled, it didn't say. So I don't know. That could be the same first animal getting ready to change. I have no idea. I didn't look at the head markings enough because that would be the easiest way to tell. But the head was also in a different position. So I couldn't really see it. So that could be the same animal. It could be a different animal. It could be, obviously, you can see that these animals have some type of relation, right? Yes. But to what extent you are throwing animals that look like this is a whole nother situation. And you also don't want to, like, I know some people in the reptile world, they love inbreeding. And inbreeding is a big thing. I don't see a ton of that in the green tree python world. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. So, this is one of these Trooper Walsh so-called bloodline, blue line pedigrees. So we'll start in the back with Old Yeller, Trooper Walsh, right? I don't think he produced that animal. Maybe he did. The way it's written, I don't think that he did. But TW, again, Trooper Walsh, bred to make daddy pants. So we'll say that that's a Trooper Walsh animal because he produced it. Yeah. TR and Trooper Walsh come down here again to make this blue female. So that's an outcross, right? TW268 to Old Yeller makes daddy pants. And then then TW628. So here it is. This is the same animal, right? Now he's bred to a different female. So they have the same father, different mothers. This is a line breeding. Yeah. That is a line breeding. But guess what follows it? An outcross, of course.
Yes.
So this animal right here, crazy TMBG 2002. That animal in particular is a line bred animal, but they outcrossed it to Lucy. So if we go back on Lucy, right? Bluebird and Grasshopper are her parents. So we go back again, wild and wild, 0 and 00. So they didn't produce those. That's an outcross. Pygar and Joan Collins, from the information provided, that's an outcross.
Yeah.
So we go down again. Aquaman, owned by Greg Maxwell, produced. It says owned by Greg Maxwell, so that means he didn't produce it. I think Trooper Walsh produced. That's where that TW comes into play. GM, that's a Greg Maxwell production, bred to this Aquaman. That's from the information, that is an outcrossed animal.
Yeah.
Produced Blue Max, that's an outcross animal. The 1993 male to the 1994, 95 Sorong type, that's an outcross to produce another outcross animal that was outcrossed to produce another outcross animal that produced another outcross animal that produced another. So they did a line breeding and then they outcrossed immediately after. So any chance of having a line, you lost it. So there is no blue line of Trooper Royal. I don't care how mad they get. I just use your own pedigree to prove it, because not only do you not know how to write pedigrees, you don't know how to read them. So none of them is going to tell me that this is a lineage. This is not a lineage. Look, I even tried to give them credit. Let's count how many how many TWs you see. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
If you count this one,
we'll count wherever we see it. We'll give them credit.
So 6.
But if it don't say it, how many did you see? 6?
6, I think. Yeah.
I think I got 5. Let me do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh yeah, 5. I think I counted this guy twice. Yeah.
So 5 times, but here's the thing. It's not even the same animal for the 5 times.
Right.
You got the male that you've used twice. Okay, you start it, but then you stop because you outcrossed. So you lost it. You're done. You killed it. But I try to give them credit and say, this is a Trooper Walsh animal. But the problem is some of these animals he didn't produce. So he owned some of these animals, but he didn't produce them. So can I say Trooper Walsh? You know what? I might give them, it's 5 times, but there's no rhythm to it. From what I'm seeing is you were breeding animals that were blue, and not all these animals were blue either when you look at them. So how did you have a blue line animal? That one animal, Crazy, looks almost calico.
Yeah.
Ish. And that was an animal that was used as in an outcrossing. So,
like, basically, when you look at something like this, at the end of the day, the clutches that you get from this family tree could be great looking snakes. That could be a mix of different things. What you will not get is a consistent product.
Yeah, you're not getting 20 blue line babies.
It's just
from
not,
this. No,
yes, like
not from this.
You could have some cool pets and some nice animals that come out of this, but you're not going to get there's no consistency in the product that's produced at the end of the day.
No, it's all outcross except for one line breeding that goes directly into an outcross.
Right.
So, but we go to that Patrick pedigree. I know what I'm getting.
Yes,
I know exactly what I'm getting. Like, not only do I know exactly what I'm getting. Oh yeah, keep it there too. That's yeah. Not only do I know exactly what I'm getting, I can literally trace back generations and generations and generations and see dogs that literally look like my dog or my horse or but here you're not getting that. Oh, this one, can you zoom out just a bit? Because I want to read. I forget how much. So $7,500 was on sale. It was really $8,000, right? And the shipping, you gotta pay, bro. That alone is disrespect to a client. I don't care, bro. I've been doing this a long time. I don't know, I don't know, bro. These guys say they're in the hobby. I'm not in the hobby. This is my profession. So $7,500, I still got to pay for shipping. This is the pedigree to this animal. Jaeger, there's that Jaeger animal again. He was outcrossed to a Wamina locality to get this animal, who was outcrossed to a Kofiau type. So an $8,000 outcross animal. And this is all you can show me on the pedigree?
Yeah.
outcross, $8,000 outcross animal, and it's red. It might not ain't nothing. This epidemic looks decent to me because, like I said, I kind of like that style a little bit. But
the freckling,
yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like at this point, like I said, like this stuff, it should be locked in on this, bro. Like
you definitely don't know what this red baby is going to turn into.
No, and they don't either, because if they did, then you would be able to sell your animals. Like you could be able to grade them better and know what to keep and what not to keep if they knew that stuff, but they don't. So it's all speculation. They just assume, like I said, you have 20 red babies. The only grading they're going to do is trying to figure out which of those 20 are the darkest.
Right.
And then those are going to be the ones they keep. And then all that other stuff can go. But real breeders in that situation, I said this before, they're going to hold everything back. Because you don't know what that stuff is going to be like until it's done, or at least gone through the majority or the maturity of its change. I want to say, because like I said, some of them can continue changing even though it's super subtle for a long time.
Right.
But this animal ain't worth no 7,000. This one ain't either. I think that's the animal in question.
Yeah.
Bro, there are animals there's an animal for sale 2 weeks ago that looked just like that for $1,200, a wild type. I've seen 1,000 wild types that look just like this, and some even better.
Mm-hmm.
Many times. So you're going to tell me this animal was worth $8,000 because of some fictitious pedigree and bloodline that's not real.
Right.
And I think it made it. So yeah, there's a description. It already telling you that it's outcross. Epidemic came from the same pairing that produced the sickness. She was a red Neo, does have a skin fold. Why she got a skin fold though? You may overlook that, but me, I'm shallow. I ain't overlooking it. I'm paying you $8,000. Oh, but it's just aesthetics. This has nothing to do with the breeding. I don't care. $8,000. Everything better be in place on that animal.
Yeah. That's expensive.
Oh, this one. Look at this one. This is another one. You see Dan at the bottom. That's not his animal. It's an animal it's a wild type animal they bought. I don't think Dan bred this animal. I think it just came from Dan. So we'll start at let's start at the top. Daddy pants, right? So according to this pedigree, daddy pants to 4839 outcross. Bluebird to grasshopper. According to this listen, if they want to get mad about pedigrees, then they need to do a better job at doing them. Because the information that we have here, this is outcross. So Bluebird, grasshopper, outcross. Crazy to Lucy, outcross. Blue Max to Jarvis, outcross. Import male to female owned by Vinsky, outcross. Vinsky to SHO5079, outcross. Outcross. Result, outcross. Price, $2,000-$3,000. Oh, which one is this? Okay.
I don't know if that was attached to this, maybe.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. We'll go over all of it. I've seen these things a million times. So this is where I was asking this guy who's been breeding these green tree pythons for quite some time, and I asked him, "Do you have pedigree for this animal that I could see?" He says, "Is there a particular animal? You see this? This is a particular animal you were looking for in the pedigree." Yeah, under normal circumstances, yes, but y'all ain't got no particular animals that are on a pedigree more than maybe 2 times, if that. So particular animals really don't even exist. It's not specifically, I'm more curious to see how it's bred. How it's bred, question mark. Mm-hmm. Immediately, if this was my animal, I would have been like, well, this is how it's bred. It was bred. Even if that stuff is wrong, I'm still going to go by, I'm going to say, this is a trooper wash, da-da-da-da-da, he outcross, inbred, blah, whatever the dynamics of it are. But instead, I get, how's it bred? You know why? Because this ain't no breeder. This is a dude in a hobby doing something in his spare time. Here's another one. This was just an ad I wanted to show. GAB Dogs presents the game-bred American Bulldog, America's own breed. Sergeant Rock, 8 years old, original foundation stud dog.
It's like the original stud dog for the American Bulldog.
For this program. For this person's program in his yard. So that's the dog he liked. That's the dog they're showing you, and that's what they're telling you. You're going to get a dog that resembles this when you come shop over here. He's 8 years old. He's our original stud.
Right.
That's what they're telling you. He's the original stud. These are his sons. These are his daughters. And these are his nephews or this, however his program bred. And when I put this dog to this dog, I'm going to get more dogs that look like this. So do you want one or not?
Exactly.
Simple. Oh, this is just garbage right here. But yeah, let's can you zoom? How big is it? Is that it right there?
I'm zoomed out as far as I can.
Okay, so that's probably just it then. So yeah, wild. Outcross. So here, now look at this one. See, now go back up to TW 1394. And now we're going to come across 94, 91, 31, 13, 91, 94, right? Now, these animals here, NZP, remember we were talking about those NZP animals, but these numbers are different. So these are outcrossed animals. NZP, outcrossed. Mm-hmm. This animal, NZP 303529, is an outcross that was bred to a wild Biak. This is an outcrossed animal. Here, this Trooper Walsh 1994 MV, outcrossed animal. Come down here, this female outcrossed animal. Maroke wild number 2. Unless them animals were siblings in the wild, that's an outcross. So that male is an outcross. So Versace male, 100% outcross. Then he was outcrossed again to Arlene. F1 so wrong. So this entire pedigree, there ain't no line here. In order to have a line, people, you need to make lines. Mm-hmm. All you did was outcross.
Yeah.
Outcross. You ain't even do any inbreedings. Oh, so this is the for that one male we were looking at, the Trooper Walsh blue line male. That's one of the pedigrees. So I think that's the pedigree we were just looking at.
Yeah, like 2 ago. Yeah.
So Alabama was bred at Bushmaster Farm, bred Aru Biak. That was exceptional looking. So, outcross, obviously. I bought this female from West Coast. I bought blah, blah, blah. Ended up being a male. He passed 5 NIDO. Hey, at least he NIDO tested.
Yeah.
But the shipping is extra. Jeez, oh, P's. I'm male heavy, so I'm letting this one go and possibly other. This is a thing where, like, if you got good males, you don't let them go.
Yeah.
Because if you testing for NIDO, then that means you believe that NIDO is a real thing. And this is just one situation. You could come home and your best male, look, that animal looks terrible, bro. That animal ain't worth no 30. I've seen animal for $200 look better than that. And I ain't exaggerating on the price. Blue line, what? $3,500 plus shipping?
So this is the point, is that this is marketed as a blue line animal, but because of the entire pedigree is outcrossed, there's no chance of any blueness coming through with this animal. It just can't happen. It's just been completely scattered across the...
Unless you're breeding it to some high blue animal that you grab from... Now, if you take this to a designer, but if you take this to... You just go grab a random Biak or a random this or that, man, yeah, you might get one bluish animal, but the rest of it, bro, there's going to be no consistency. How? I just showed you a totally outcrossed pedigree. I don't have anything substantial to even cross this animal into to do a line breeding. Because one, I don't even know where the website is to go and look at. If I wanted to get into green tree pythons, when people want to go and breed dogs and horses before they buy animals, you know what they do? They go looking at we call them pedigree junkies. Mm-hmm. That's what we call
one up right here. This is the cats.
That's the cat pedigree.
Look at that. That thing's crazy.
Bro, and you know how many, just like that dog pedigree, there's a lot of line breedings and a lot of inbreedings in there.
Yeah.
There's you see a lot of those highlighted names or dogs and cats that were used multiple times. Why? Because they had something, right? They had something. Look at that. What is it? Champion Honey Miss Little Flirt. Then you come over here, Champion Honey Miss Joshua, Champion Honey Miss Hopscotch. So we know Honey Miss got to be something, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
All the way down on this pedigree. This is a cat pedigree.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy how detailed it is. But again, it's because, these are obviously animals that have won at shows, and they're hitting the standard, and
they're hitting the standard. They win it at the shows. They're reproducing themselves. You know what I mean? Well, no, and no one's saying, because anybody that tells you like, every animal, every clutch, every puppy in the litter, every kitten in the litter is going to be fire. That's garbage. If any breeder ever tells you that, you walk away from them immediately. Like pick of the litter and things like that are sales gimmicks. There's no way. I've seen people sell pick of the litter. Every puppy in the litter left is pick of the litter. So 10 people got pick of the litter.
Yeah, and one got one, and and 9 others got just random dogs.
Right. And then the thing is, it probably wasn't even a pick of the litter in there, because a lot of times you're getting that with people who are new and they're just trying to make money. Because a real breeder like myself, like I'm keeping a lot of stuff on because I need to keep the best stuff for myself, not for my homeboys. They get the second best stuff. And then the client gets the third best stuff unless I don't need it. And then I will find the right people I'm not going to send my melanistic animal to a yellow line program. I'm going to send it to a melanistic program.
Exactly.
Where it's supposed to be. Oh, this one too. I actually have a lot of respect for these guys as far as them breeding Cyclops and Manikwari, pure locality. That's all they've ever done. And they produced a lot of great looking animals. But wrong is wrong and right is right. And that thing says this is a line breeding project. Blueberry, the super blue male, that was produced here. That's awesome. 2013 was bred back to his mother. That is not a line breeding. That is a hardcore inbreeding.
Yeah.
That is it. And if you don't know that, then that means you don't know about outcrossing, line breeding, or inbreeding. And I'm not saying that directly to these people. I'm saying in general, because I've heard a lot of green tree python people and other reptile people tell people the wrong information when it comes to how to create lines and what's line breeding and what's not. Yes. That isn't inbreeding. You guys use Google or whatever for everything else. Use it for this too.
And the first inbreeding pass is a pretty sketchy litter to buy from, or a clutch to buy from, right? Like we don't know. This is where you run into issues, right? You start to do some real tight inbreeding and you pop up with the issues. And that's why these animals probably shouldn't be sold until they're much older.
Well, that's the thing is like, you really don't know. So you're playing with dynamite in a way. It may not seem that way for some people. I think a lot of people just get animals and they just accept them. It's like I said, that's why like you post an animal. I could post the ugliest snake in the world and I'm going to get 120 likes on it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But then you try to sell that to some of them same people like, oh no, that's not my thing. I'm not into that. So like what's really going on here? So yeah, when you start programming animals, you come into this understanding that outcrossing, line breeding, and inbreeding are the 3 types of breeding skills that you are going to have to use. And within that, you can, that's a good one too. You're going to intensify on all the traits, negative and positive. Yes. And if you can't accept that, you probably shouldn't be breeding at all. Or then I guess you're just going to continuously do outcrossing, but you're never really going to win. So anybody buying animals from you is ultimately getting ripped off. Unless you are saying, I don't do anything but outcross. Because in the wild, we assume that there's more outcrossing than inbreeding. So there's nothing wrong with outcrossing, but if you're outcrossing, don't be telling people you got a bloodline, because that's a lie.
Yeah.
Like that's a flat out lie. You don't have a bloodline if you're outcrossing animals. Like, look at this pedigree. It's all, we'll start at the top. The animal itself is outcross. All the parents are all the way down. This animal is like 80% outcross. These two circles here is because they did an inbreeding. But then they outcross immediately after. This is the same animal on both sides.
Right.
So they use this animal. No, sorry. It's from the same pair. They're siblings.
Yes. Yeah.
So
okay.
Ultimately, they share 50% of the same DNA, but they're siblings. And so, but they outcross them. So here's the inbreeding. Here's the inbreeding followed by an immediate outcross, followed by an immediate outcross, followed by an outcross, then another outcross, then another outcross, to end up with so this animal is ultimately outcross, inbred, outcross.
Mm. Yes.
But
yeah.
There ain't no line. Wild blue. See, that just proves that they were getting wild blues from the. So anybody, you're buying a blue line animal, but they made blue line animals from breeding supposedly made blue line animals from breeding animals that were coming in that exhibited more blue than others. These animals, this is something that you see in green tree pythons regularly.
Right.
It's not out of the norm. You don't need to pay $8,000 or have, look at this. Look, every pedigree we've shown of theirs, bro. Like it's just, and look at this one. Is this the same one? Because they use this. No, this is different.
Yeah, it's a different one. Yeah.
But it's the same style. Two inbreedings followed by outcross. And I think these are the exact same animals here. Because the number 6289, 6289.
Yeah.
So reading this pedigree, everything down here is outcross, 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 and you got these two inbreedings, and they go directly into outcross. To get this blue animal here, Blue Deuce, which came from a cross from this animal, which looks to me like I don't know if that's one or two animals in there, but it looks like a really, if it's not one, if it's not two, because it almost looks like there's two animals breeding from the thumbnail. Yeah. Or it's a really large green tree python. Maybe probably a Biak cross from the look of it. Cross into this high blue inbred outcross male to get this. But where are the rest of the animals? Mm-hmm. Because what they're doing is all the rest of those animals that didn't turn out high blue like that, they're not showing you that stuff.
Right.
So they either went to nobodies or they, I don't know what they did with them, but they're banking on these one animals. When you're breeding, you're supposed to have 6 or 7 or 8 of them in every clutch.
Yeah. They all come. 80% come out blue or something. Yeah, exactly.
If you're doing this correctly, that's what you'd be getting. Like these, I like this style, but I've seen animals maybe with not the heavy black blotches, but some very close to it in wild type animals.
Yes.
Even the Vinsky we were just looking at had an animal that was a wild type Manikwari that looked very similar to this.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful animal. I would like it even better if it was a pure locality.
Yes. Yeah.
Personally.
But do you want to send me why don't we're coming up to 4 hours. Good thing we didn't try to duplicate this like the original plan was to put this stuff into the first one. That would have been insane. I'm going to run quickly to take a leak, but can you send me the one with the red babies, like the the poster that you'd sent me yesterday.
Yeah.
We can talk about that. I want to talk about that as well, and then we'll get close to wrapping up. And obviously,
I didn't know, bro. I didn't realize we had been. Wow,
it's a lot of stuff, and then
it's a lot of stuff.
We got to go through a part 3 at some point. But yeah, send me that, and then we'll get that. We'll pull that up. I'll be right back.
All right, cool.
Okay, so here we go. So this is what you were alluding to earlier with kind of the chocolate reds, regular reds, and yellows.
Yeah, so now they've got a chart, so you know how to get it, or at least. Or get closer to it. So they can figure this stuff out, but they don't know how to line breed and inbreed properly, which is crazy. So so when you see something like this is not like you want to call this a genetics guide, but the only thing you're focusing on is trying to get the darkest red babies possible in the hopes that they will do something that they might not actually do. Mm-hmm. So it's still a wild card. And he even says it at the thing. He's like, genetics can be unpredictable. Results may vary, of course. So here's it. They're telling you yellow and yellow dominant, red, yellow, red dominant, red. 50 could possibly get 25% yellow. Depends on the animal. And so I said, this is how you could create pure red Aru babies. You just have to know how to do the program. That's why we call it programming and not projecting. Because there's a very different thing. These guys like to project. This is what they're doing. And they're projecting all that BS on you, which is why you got to pay for, you don't really know what you're getting. Mm-hmm. So this chart is basically trying to help them to get more money for animals visually, because they're assuming that if you get a red baby, that's the lore now. You get a red baby, you're in there. And that's so far from the truth. And they have even admitted that. Like, oh, you're selling $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 red baby, and it just turns into a decent looking green tree python.
Yeah. So obviously there's probably some truth to it that reds have maybe a higher percentage chance of being slightly nicer, but it sort of undermines the yellows for one, but it's disrespectful to them.
To the species in general. So, but I mean, how much respect? I mean, you got guys saying, this is one of the dumbest snakes on the planet, and goes on to try to elaborate on that. And I'm like, bro, there's not very many dumb animals, and the ones that are, they're most of them are gone. If they're not all gone, dumb animals don't last long. But if you keep an animal in minimalistic, enclosure with nothing, what kind of behavior do you really expect to see?
Yeah.
And what do you expect to see, bro? Like you can't even. It's like if I got forest cobra. Oh, there you are. If I put newspaper on here, and every day I come in here, I just open it, put water in, and I close it back. I don't know what's going on in there with that animal. That's no different from your animals living in a tub all day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now this animal, I mean, it's pretty decked out in here. You know what I mean? Like it's decked out in here. So she'd probably be comfortable in there, not having seen me, coming back and forth. But when we're talking about some people's green tree pythons do live in tubs, and some people's snakes in general do live in tubs. And we're talking about from a breeding standpoint, man. Like, you really want to buy that stuff? Like, oh, it's a red baby, but it's tub bred. That's another thing. They need to start putting that on there too. Like, is it tub bred? Is it bred in an enclosure? That's a part of how it's bred, because dogs that don't ever get time out of the kennel, we already know are proven to have better litters than dogs. That are proven not to have better, more efficient litters than dogs that are getting the exercise and the right diet and environment that they're supposed to be getting. Like, that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, people like, don't buy wild caught. I'm like, well, I'll stop buying wild caught when y'all start getting some real breeding standards and keeping standards. Like, if we're talking about these new people that are coming in, a lot of them aren't even breeding, but they want their stuff to be set up like this, even for green tree pythons. And you got a lot of these guys telling them not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's never going to eat that way. It's not going to thrive. The space is too big. First of all, how does the green tree python really know how much space he has? Unless you've got him in an enclosure that's like this. Because I think all of us have clear front enclosures, right?
Yeah.
And even my snakes still try to come through the glass.
Yes, yeah.
So, in that snake's mind, he's got a whole lot of space on the other side of that glass. That's why they try to get out.
Yeah.
Continuously coming up the glass, pushing on the glass. So, if space was such a issue, like, there's like, oh, green tree pythons don't really do anything, but they do. You just have you've never seen them in the wild, because when you go in the wild, you're not observing the animals. What's the first thing these guys do when they get over there? They pull the animal out of the tree.
Yeah.
You're not over there with cameras like what Eddie was doing. I'm not saying that Eddie didn't take animals out of the tree. I'm not saying that you shouldn't observe the animal physically, but you just grab an animal out of the tree one night, late night. And it's funny how they always find either trios or pairs. And I've told people that, like, green tree pythons have a distinct location, and you generally find a 1 and 2 or a 1 and 1, but it's usually a 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And then another male will happen into that territory, because he knows there's females over there, and then that's when they get to battle and, in that particular situation. But these animals move in like zigzag patterns. That's why they always end up almost back in the same space. I've watched them for hours in the wild. So I'm not going to take any advice from them. And it is going to be hard for them to understand why I'm not going to conform and lie to myself. Like, bro, you got to be crazy if you're going to sit up and lie to yourself every day. You can lie to other people, but you can't lie. I mean, I guess you can lie to yourself. But when you start believing that garbage, it's crazy. So, like I said, it's like at the end of the day, this chart proves this isn't about breeding green tree pythons. This hasn't got nothing to do with breeding green tree pythons, because breeding green tree pythons is just breeding green tree pythons and being happy with what other babies you get, red or yellow.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I don't like designer animals. I don't like mutated animals, because I just think it's a disrespect to the animals itself. If you like that stuff and you want to spend your money on that stuff, you go right ahead. But another thing is, some of these guys, I guess, are pretty rude, because I get a lot of women that buy. It's either rude or they're trying to hit on them, and they buy these animals from them, and they might be a first time keeper or whatever. And I've had it 4 different women They're like, bro, I was like, why are you asking me about their stuff? I didn't breed this stuff. Like, I don't breed trash. So I don't know. You got to ask. Well, I just feel so and so just made me uncomfortable. And they said that a lot. Okay, I understand. So I'm going to give them the information, but I'm still going to tell them, like, bro, I don't know what that guy's doing or that girl is doing in their house over there. Mm-hmm. Like, these animals could be brought up in tubs. They could be in giant enclosures. They could be this. They could be that. I don't know. I don't buy from them. If I want to go get green tree pythons, I'm calling my exporters.
Yes. Yeah.
My importers. That's who I'm calling.
Exactly.
And that's it. I don't want nothing to do. Like, there's maybe 2 or 3 people that I know personally that I would buy green tree pythons from. Snakes in general. Animals in general. I've been doing this for so long, bro. It's hard for me. I can't just settle. I'll bring a dog in here and 6 months later, you're like, where's the dog? Like, bro, I gave that dog away. This wasn't the right home for him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, regardless how people see it, say it, whatever, this is my house. And this is how I do things over here. If you had more breeders like me, you wouldn't have all these reptile rescues. You wouldn't have all these full dog shelters, because responsible breeders are responsible breeders.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rain, I think we went through a ridiculous amount of stuff today.
Yeah, bro, I had no idea.
That was fantastic. Like, I think it's really about making sure that the amount of people that we had that were thankful for the first one, who are just confused by the green tree python market, who want to be involved in the species because they think they're beautiful and they want to work with them, and that's totally valid. But they're perplexed and they're confused and they want a good animal. So hopefully this answers a lot of those questions. I still think there's probably a part 3 in here somewhere. And we would talk about,
very possible.
We talked about bringing maybe potentially someone else on, and maybe doing one more kind of like round table-ish style for, having an additional perspective as well. But is there anything else that you wanted to say before we officially wrap this one up?
I mean, at the end of the day, in conclusion, people, it's your money. Spend it the way you want. But if you're really an animal or plant lover, whatever, and like I said, we are talking about the green tree python, and we did draw a lot of parallels. But at the end of the day, this is animals at home. Keyword is animals at home. So it could be any animal. Mm-hmm. And, we're nobody's trying to sell you a dream or anything like that, but we're just trying to get you the right information. In order to do that, question these people. I don't care who it is or how, or if you're going to feel uncomfortable from someone, don't buy from them. Yeah. Because if you come over here, I'm going to make you feel as comfortable as possible. You're spending a lot of money. I mean, I would never charge you like that. But I think, you'd be wary of who you're talking to. Write out your questions, write them down, and make sure you ask them and you get the actual answers to the questions. Don't let them steer you. Like, insurance companies try to do this a lot. Like, when you ask them about cash value life insurance, because most people have no clue what that is. And so that's the one that you need. And they offer it. It's like the fine print. They don't have to tell you about it, but they don't, either way, they ain't got to say nothing. But when you start asking them about cash value life insurance, they start trying to tell you don't need it. How are you going to tell me what I need?
Yeah.
Cash value is something I want. I've looked into it and I want it. And stop telling me otherwise. It's my money and I want cash value now. And so it's the same thing. Like, you got these guys telling you don't buy wild caught because of Nido, when Nido started in captivity with the ball pythons, and a lot of ball python breeders are also green tree python breeders. Just putting that out there. So they say don't buy wild caught. Meanwhile, 50% of their collection is wild caught. I'm a old importer exporter. The only thing I do now, as far as reptiles, is I have other friends that import and export, and they do small exports for me. Mm. And so, but if you, bro, it's like this. How can you tell someone, you really can't tell someone how to spend their money. That's why I tell people, it's yours. Do it the way you want to do it. This is a guide. But you can't say, don't do this while you're doing it. And then we just showed you them doing it. Don't buy wild caught, but they buy a wild caught and cross it to this insane designer animal. We just showed you that.
Yes, yeah.
That makes no sense. But yet they're telling you, don't buy a wild caught animal because they want you to spend thousands with them, but they're buying wild caught animals. But the whole push is red babies are the best. Don't buy wild caught. Only buy from this little group of people and you'll be all right. But after all them emails and messages we got, it's a total opposite of that. So I think these guys really need to get off their high horse or whatever they're sitting on. They need to look at all the elements that they have, put them together. If you really care about this, I don't breed green tree pythons. I got cobras here. I got cobras and snail eaters and one little random viper. So get together, make a real website with stud books, your pedigrees that if you want to talk about them so much, then do them the right way. And then we can all go there and enjoy them on the same level together. Mm-hmm. Uniformity is key. That brings structure. I think we might have said this, and I think this would be like the best point to lead off on. I think we were talking about this on the phone one day. It's like, if you're a Doberman breeder and I'm a Doberman breeder and this guy's a Doberman breeder, Dobermans have a standard. We're supposed to follow that standard as close as we can. Wouldn't it make sense that if we're all programming the same breed, like if the original diet from a Doberman actually existed. I have it. I have the dog book with all the diets. Before dry food ever even existed, dogs ate raw. So anybody who thinks other than that, man, bro, you people just got a long way to go. Like, you can't just say things and they make them true. Mm-hmm. So you've got these animals. You want to do right by them, right? So if me and you have the same breed and this other guy, wouldn't it make sense that we all get together and say, man, we've got to keep these dogs going. Well, what were Dobermans eating back then? Where they were eating this, and this, and then we formulate a diet. And so then we start telling all the other Doberman breeders, like, hey, we're here back in the day. This is what it was. Let's bring some uniformity to this so we can bring the Doberman. I'm not saying that the Doberman is dying. It's just hypothetical. So we can bring the Doberman back and get it on the same level. Mm-hmm. So we want it to be what it was, and not because we talked about this. I've done many podcasts on many channels for exotic and domestic, and it's always something we talk about. Especially with dogs, it's how 20 years ago the Doberman looked like this, and now the Doberman looks and acts like this. And why? Because you're taking them from different environments. You're giving them different food, different water. You walk 5 times a day. He doesn't walk at all. Mm-hmm. So all of that matters. That's how you create phenotypes, because you can't alter the phenotype you already have in front of you. You have to use that to get to the next level.
Yes.
And so I think that these guys need to get together. They need to, all this nonsense they got going on behind the scenes and all that crap, and build one green tree python website, make it stick. Everybody do the same thing, however services you want to add, whatever you want to do. And then that way you can talk about your marketing, what a designer is, what a designer isn't. But ultimately right now, you don't have designer green tree pythons. They do not exist until you can put those animals together and reproduce the design that, if you say calico, then I want to see 80% calico. You say melanistic, I want to see 80% melanistic. You say albino, I want to see 80% albino. Until I see that, there is no designer. I don't make the rules, but I am going to let you know what they are. Because I've been doing this longer than most of these people. And they're like, oh, I've only bred reptiles as a hobby. That's not my background.
Yeah,
I breed plants and animals. And I've been doing it since I was 5 years old. And I can get 1,000 people from all over the world to come in here and tell you that. I mean, my proof's in the pudding. Like, I'm a consultant. Nobody's calling them, paying them the money that I get paid to do what we just did on your channel. I do the same thing every day. Somebody calls me, hey, I need to do this. I need to do that. Can you show me how to do this? So there's a huge difference, and the numbers don't lie, bro. That's all it is. I think that's it, bro. I think that's a good point to leave off on. You got something else for them? I'm good.
No, I think that's fantastic, Rain. Thank you very much for all of that. And like I said, we'll probably do a part 3, because I'm sure we'll have some people pop up in the comments that we'll address whatever we can next time as well. And like I said, maybe we'll bring somebody else on too to just kind of wrap up this entire conversation. But
we dictate, not that, because you can dictate another channel. This is Dillon's channel, and we wrote this together, so you're not going to dictate who we bring on, because that's
we
your
have a couple good
person.
Ideas.
We're good over here.
We have some good ideas for somebody that we could bring on, and I think that would be a great way to kind of end the series. But anyway, this was such a rabbit hole that got opened up, and I think it was fascinating. So thank you very much for doing this again, and we'll obviously have you back on again shortly.
For sure. All right, people.
See you later, buddies. Okay, that is the end of that episode. Rain, thank you very much for joining us again on the show. Listeners, thank you so much for getting through that one. There's just so much content in there. And again, as I said through the intro, I'm sure this will have ruffled some feathers, and also some people will deeply appreciate this information. I think we do need to do a part 3 just to kind of close the loop on this conversation, like where can we move forward with the green tree population or the green tree community? What can we do with the population of the animals that are currently on this side of the world? Can we work with pure localities? Can we be certain that the localities that are labeled as pure are actually pure? The list continues to go on. I think there were some fascinating things brought up today. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure you share it on social media. You can watch the video on Spotify and YouTube if you don't know, but you can also leave comments on both of those platforms as well, which definitely does help the algorithm, but also helps us kind of give us an idea of what you liked, what you didn't like, the things that, again, if you felt like there was some things that was wrong in the episode, definitely be specific so we can address those in the future video. And I think that is it for this episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can head over to animalsathome.com. No, I do that every time. If you'd like to support the podcast on Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/animalsathome, or head to animalsathomenetwork.com for more information on this podcast or any other episode that has been published. And we will catch you in the next episode. Thank you, everybody.